be there to explain it in that universe. So, and that's fine. It's not an argument for anything. It's not an argument against God. All it is taking your presuppositions and doing exactly the same thing that he does, is back yourself into your own little box, and I'm not going to come out of my box, you're not going to come out of your box, so we're just going to sit in our boxes and yell at each other.
That's exactly what it is. It's kind of a discussion stopper.
Yeah, but the presuppositional thing, God has revealed it to me in such a way that I know it to be true.
Yeah. Can Trey address that real quick?
Sorry, one second. Yeah,
well,
sure, go ahead. Sorry, go ahead.
Well, I was just going to say that I agree with you. I think that's my problem that I have with presuppositionalism, is that it's a conversation stopper, and I think that it's not really helpful to discussion. And I love my presuppositional brothers and sisters, but I think that the methodology is flawed.
Yep.
Right, absolutely. And the reason for that is because, the guy explained, is that it gets you to kind of critique other people's worldviews. Now, what Seamus says with his arguments, and this comes back to always talking about what Floyd brings up when he talks about the external and internal critiques of somebody's worldview, is that we're willing to do an internal critique of his worldview, where we kind of assume his presuppositions and see if we can get to the same conclusion he does. Yeah, sure, you have a logical basis so that you can base this off of. It's coherent. Now, just because something is logically valid doesn't mean that it's logically sound. Now so you can try to address those issues there, but then you have to step out of your world, back out of his worldview and address them from wherever. But then arguing just what the presuppositions are, arguing against axioms, is never a fun thing to do, and it just kind of goes down a rabbit trail of 2.5 hours of meaningless conversation before you just reach a point where you're not going to agree on anything. So it's stupid to get there. To challenge somebody to challenge Seamus on his argument is just. It's not fallacious to ask them that question, but it's pointless, because he's not willing to step out of his view and get to the stage where he can prove it's a necessity, because he can't, and he knows it.
Yeah.
So
well,
from the same token is where I propose my worldview. Well, he can try to address it as much as he wants from his worldview, and try to strip mine down. He can't, because I'm not going to come out of my box. Anything that he tries to assert on me, is my presuppositions, and try to get, if you want to try to justify or challenge my presuppositions, you're going to have to come out of your box.
Well, hey, the whole point of his thing came up to address, I think, mine and yours agnosticism part on the thing. He's trying to say agnosticism can't exist. In his argument, that's the whole point of his argument. But it doesn't address actually agnosticism. What his first premise is, God exists, right? If he lays it out, his first premise is God exists. That's the only position that I'm agnostic on. I'm not agnostic on anything in his argument.
Yeah, when he argues against agnosticism, again, he argues that saying that it's contradictory. Well, first off, it's contradictory in his worldview, but whatever, I'll come back around to that. When he proposes that, using a modological argument for the existence of God, or an ontological argument for the existence of God, an ontological in this case, it would be Matt Bell was trying to do this to me again earlier in a hangout, and I was trying to correct him as well, and he wasn't listening. But he asked me, do I believe that a God can possibly exist in this world? That a maximally great being can exist in a possible world. And now, if you were to say yes to that, a maximally great being that can exist in a possible world has to exist in all worlds. That's where the natural transition is from there. Right. So if you hold the agnostic position, where I think that it's possible that a God can exist as a necessary being in all possible worlds, but I don't think that a God can exist in all possible worlds as a necessity, or however they want to phrase it, is contradictory. Right. And he's absolutely right.
Right.
But that's not the position that agnostics hold.
Right.
Agnostics hold, when you're presented with a ontological argument like that, is that we actually have to throw in another premise. That we're going to reject your premise right off the bat, because I can't say anything to it. The answer is simply, I don't know.
Right.
Whatever. So we throw in the precursor. If God exists, then it is possible that a maximally great being can exist in a possible world.
Right.
but we have to throw in that precursor of if God exists, because again, we haven't actually formed a belief or any type of conclusion on that.
Exactly.
In the same sense that we can say that if a God does not exist, then he is obviously not a necessary precursor to the to all of existence.
Exactly.
So it's not a contradictory position because we throw it in there. Now Matt Bell was challenging me on this, saying it's like, well, that's not what the argument is, and I was like, you're right. But if you're just going to present me the argument, I'm just going to say I don't know.
Right.
If you actually want me to go over this with you, I'm going to throw in my own precursor on this that's saying, listen, I'll stipulate this and I'll answer your question. But my questions are, based on the fact that I'm going to throw in this if at the beginning of it, because I have to form it in that type of way for it to be a coherent sentence inside my worldview.
Yeah, you're very clear on that. That's good. And that's exactly right.
There was one thing somebody said in a hangout a while back that, like we say, what is your evidence for God, the existence of God? If there was any real evidence that was testable, then God would not be supernatural anymore. He would be just part of reality.
Hold on, that's what he's saying. That either your presupposition.
That's part of
He's saying your presupposition is naturalism. What is it? Methodological naturalism.
Yeah.
So if you ask him to prove some evidence of God, you're going off your precept that the only way to prove God is through methodological naturalism, and he's saying that that's not possible, and that's not how you prove God.
So his God is basically not falsifiable.
Right.
Yeah.
Because I asked him if he had any other way to prove this evidence of God using any method. Anything, and there is no answer to it. Revelation is what it comes down to. What I was saying, how I said it's just a philosophical model of a reality that could exist. It doesn't translate into our reality except through revelation. And what can you do with a personal revelation to show me, to show it?
Not diddly squat.
No.
Yeah, I kind of look at, like I said, I look at it like if they got a maximally whatever thing did exist, it would be part of reality, part of nature, part of physics and everything. I mean, it would be something we still probably couldn't understand, but it would still fit in with the universe, how it works and everything.
See, there's kind of a little
That
bait.
makes sense.
It makes sense. So there's a little bit of bait and switch there,
What
I'm saying when they ask the question is that they ask you a belief-based question. Do you believe that it is possible for a maximally great being to exist in a possible world?
No.
Now, when you think about that, is that do you believe that it's possible? That that's great. Well, essentially, what you're answering is that you have a belief that this is possible. Now, it shouldn't say that. It's saying the way that most people would understand the question and answer it would be, I understand the concept of a maximally great being possibly existing in any possible world. Anybody can do that. Anybody can understand the concept of it, but they don't have to believe it.
No, okay.
What's the? Isn't there kind of an issue regarding the greatest being? I mean, can't people argue that people can define that in different ways?
Philosophically, kind of. It's kind of settled, kind of thing.
Yeah, I see what Sokka was talking about the wording of the question. Do you believe? Yeah,
right.
Yeah, I see what you mean. Yeah, it's like if I was asked, do I believe in evolution? I say I don't believe in it. I accept it as the best, whatever idea or the best reasonable explanation of the diversity of life on Earth. I accept it. It's not that I believe in it. So sometimes you may use the wrong word and they go, aha, got you. But you're not quite on the same definition of your definition and their definition of the words may not be the same. And there's problems there too.
Well, that's what I was talking about with the greatest being. That's why I would want an explanation from somebody what the greatest being is before I agreed and went forward.
That and my definition of greatest and yours may differ greatly.
Right.
I mean, that's kind of problem number one there, as far as I'm concerned.
I think something like that came up with Arn Ra and Matt Slick, where Matt Slick was saying something, kept throwing belief or truth or something, and Arn was avoiding saying those words or certain words because that would compromise his position as far as Matt Slick was concerned. Matt Slick would use it as a way to get in and go, aha, I caught you.
Yeah, I've noticed that.
Go ahead.
Philosophy, especially when it involves argumentation, is you have to place your words very carefully, or it can be fallacious.
Let me add on that, and I agree with it. Let me add on that maximally being thing you were saying, and then 13. Whenever you have instances like that in that argument, at least from what I've heard, is that you might have your concept of a maximally great being. He has his concept. It's actually whichever two of those is maximally great would be the maximally great being.
No, because that rule.
Yeah, but who determines what is maximally great?
That's kind of what I was about to touch on. Is that
that's the problem. That's the exact problem. That's why I'm saying it's mostly settled, but that you hit right on the problem.
The problem.
Well, here, may I jump in for a sec?
Okay, go for it.
Well, I'm going to talk about the maximally great being. I'm going to say God is that being than which no greater can be conceived. It's going to be, and we're not talking about just anything that can be conceived that's great, but we're talking about the greatest being, that being, which you cannot conceive that could be any greater. And that which exists in reality is greater than that which exists in idea only. So it's going to be every sense in which you can say when you're talking about being, it's going to be that great maximal being. I don't know why that could be equivocated.
Well, could it be maximally evil as well as maximally good? Because great doesn't imply good.
How are you? No, because evil is just a deprivation of goodness.
Oh, hang on. When you're talking about
something, it's a contradiction.
Hang on, though. When you're talking, wait.
Sorry, 13.
When you're talking about something being great doesn't necessarily imply that it is either good or evil in that kind of sense.
Right.
So that's what I'm saying. So to say that it's evil would just be able to say that it's not maximally great, right?
No, because you're not saying it's necessarily good or evil by saying great. Great would be a different kind of quality than the quality of what we refer to as good and evil.
Okay, but if I'm defining evil as a deficiency of greatness, then
that'd be your definition, yeah. But
what if I define good as the same thing as just the opposite of what you just said?
Well, and how does?
Well, that would just be equivocation.
But
how does evil diminish the good when it's kind of we would have to recognize evil or good to recognize the opposite.
Yeah, well, we can't even, the only way that we know that something is evil is we just say that it is the lack of something that is good. It's a parasite. It's not something that has ontology in and of itself. It's just a lack of the good.
We wouldn't even know that if we didn't have it.
How do we define good then?
You'd have to rely on human definitions of good now, wouldn't you?
Hold on, I want to hear the definition for good in that instance.
Yeah.
Would that not be the lack of this evil? Or defamation?
I'm sorry, could you say it again?
How would you define good in that?
Could you say it again, Xbox?
Yeah, how could you define good in that? Wouldn't it be the lack of evil?
Yes, it would be the lack of that which is maximally the greatest of the being itself. In other words, the definition is coming from the being of that which gives definition.
But isn't that circular? I mean, while ago you stated that evil is what diminishes or depraves good, and then now it's being switched to good is that which lacks evil.
Right. Yeah, that's kind of what I'm trying to point out, or at least try to flesh out.
I'm not understanding.
I'm seeing good in the same way you're seeing evil, the way you're defining it. And it could be a semantic thing that both of us are missing. But that's what I'm trying to flesh out, is if you're saying good, good would be the lack of the evil, and the evil would be the lack of the good.
That's kind of circular. Secular.
Yeah, it's also very subjective as to what one considers to be good or evil.
Well, no, but the whole definition is coming from objective being. That's the whole point. In other words, every argument I'm going to make about anything is going to be an ontologically driven argument, and it's got to be definition comes from self-existence. It's objective.
I follow you on that. I was trying to just flesh out that, because I still see it as an issue of how you're getting that objective definition. But I follow you exactly where you're saying.
Is good and evil being used as a noun or a verb or adjective? Which is it?
It's a pronoun.
No. Not a pronoun.
Hey, Josh.
That's not a pronoun.
Didn't see you come in there. Man, did you get a haircut?
I did.
Yeah, it looks good.
Thank you.
I looked up evil. It says adjective and noun.
Sam said he wanted in, so I sent him the link.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I'd invited him earlier.
I figured you had. I just figured you hadn't noticed it. But
yeah, good on.
Good is an adjective, noun, or adverb.
Oh, and once again, red light is on.
What does that mean?
Oh, I kicked it live, and I think he's got it.
Yeah, it's kicked live.
He was just warning you, so you know.
If I could say, why does the theist have to give a definition of what goodness is? Can't they give examples of?
Oh, you kicked it live on your end. I'll turn mine off then. Sorry. I'm sorry, I got to interrupt for 1 second because I was streaming on mine for a moment before I kicked it live. Go to Xbox Fiend's channel.
No, you're fine.
Are you sure? I was going to pimp you.
No, yeah, you're fine. You can leave it on. It's fine.
Okay. Doesn't matter then. Never mind.
Sometimes in discussions, people may use the same word, but my meaning of a word might be different from your meaning of a word, and that can cause confusion.
Well, there's no such thing. I mean, anyone who's taken, math, any advanced math knows there's no such thing as a correct definition and a wrong definition. There are only good definitions and bad definitions.
You have to have definitions you agree on.
Exactly, and
that's what I'm trying to say. You have to have the same. You have to be approaching something, and defining these words on something that you agree with. That this is what it means.
And honestly, in my case, I don't think phrases like maximally great being have any real meaning or weight.
I don't know, because what is great? Is there any objective meaning for great? I don't think so. It's subjective. It's a value judgment.
Yeah, that's kind of what Trey.
Adjective, noun, or adverb.
Hey Trey, how do you define great?
He said he had to go.
How do you? Oh, there you go.
Yeah,
you dropped. Sorry. Well, how would you, Josh? Maybe. How would you?
Yeah.
Hey, it's the big room thing. He likes the smaller conversations, or so that 20 people aren't jumping in.
Yeah,
plus he was having a party with his daughters.
Yeah, great as an adjective is of an extent, amount, or intensity considerably above the normal or average. Noun, a great or distinguished person. Adverb, excellently, very well, whatever.
Let me try to bring Josh in on at least where we were at. We were discussing the a being which none are greater, I think. A maximally great being kind of thing.
Which none can be greater.
We were just kind of flushing it out. We were going from another conversation, but we were trying to flush what that was.
Yeah, it kind of sidetracked into what is good and what is evil.
Do you think maybe the fact that there must be a necessary being, either God or the universe, might give some inclinations of why there might need to be a maximally great being?
That's not a fact.
Why is it greater to be necessary than unnecessary? Rather be unnecessary to the universe.
I'm wondering why there must be, personally.
Yeah.
I think we all know that the universe or God, either one, must exist necessarily. We don't know which one, though.
Well, we do, because we know that the universe exists. I don't know what you mean by that.
But we don't know if it exists necessarily or contingently.
Does it matter?
Does it really matter, though?
Well, if it can be shown that the universe does not exist necessarily, then I think God or something else would exist necessarily.
Well, how would you go about proving that?
Yeah.
Well, actually, if I can field that one, strangely enough,
Go,
I
Shadow.
think the universe theoretically would have to be contingent on whatever it was that originated the universe. Now, what that is, we have no way to determine at this particular time. We've gotten pretty close to that origin point, but we can't go prior to it, because it goes up to a funnel, essentially, if you're going by the timeline. But, so it's certainly dependent on something, but supposing that it's someone, I think, is a step way too far.
Well, that something, do you think that something would have to be personal?
No.
That personal thing is really kind of odd because, and if you don't mind me just going on for a moment about this notion that whatever led to the start of the universe had to be personal as opposed to a person. I mean, calling it personal is weird because it's kind of pulling that note of, a personal God out of Scripture, and I think it's kind of almost a misuse of the term personal.
So, precept thingy, ain't it?
Well, no, it's. I guess maybe it's a semantic thing on my part, but the fact that, like William Lane Craig says, it must be personal. The notion of it being personal to me is just kind of like, what do you mean personal? It's something that belongs to some person. It's not its own thing, and that's kind of what it implies to me. And
what type of personal? All things that I know to be personal are all contingent things.
Yeah, that's
or in your mind.
That's kind of where I was going with that. I think it's a bad word choice, generally speaking.
It might be. Maybe it is a semantic thing. It would be nice to flesh that out as well.
Yeah, it's a huge semantic thing, and I acknowledge that, but anyway.
I think for something to be contingent and to be personal, that's a sufficient condition, but if we're going to say that the universe is not the necessary condition, that it is contingent, then it seems like the cause would have to be personal.
Why? How does that follow? That seems like a complete mistake.
That's a huge leap.
Yeah.
The only way that a timeless state of affairs can bring about an effect that is in time would be, as Craig thinks, that if the cause willed the effect from eternity.
But how do you know?
No. I have a deeper question than that, which is that you're talking about something that is in and of itself timeless. When we're talking about something potentially outside of our reality, that doesn't mean that there isn't some other time frame that it'd be existing in which time passes in a different manner than what we know as time.
Yeah.
So I think your argument would say that God could be in time, like heaven, angelic realm. But I'm just saying that time. I'm assuming that just time happened to start at the Big Bang. That most physicists agree.
Well,
I don't think so. Here's where we enter really counterintuitive concepts. Time didn't start because start implies a before. Time just was. Like there's no real. I mean, the closest language we can get to describing it is physics and mathematics. Because something can't begin if there isn't a before.
Yeah, and that's kind of that's a little bit where I'm going, Sam, with this, is that the notion of time, when they say time didn't exist before the universe, they're talking about time within our universe, the time frame that we live in. There would have had to be some other kind of time prior to that wouldn't be internal of our universe. Prior to our universe, in terms of time in our universe, it'd be a null state because there wouldn't be a place for that time to be happening, but that doesn't mean there'd be some kind of other time frame external of that.
Yeah. So why couldn't God exist in an undifferentiated time, and then have a timeless intention to create a temporal effect?
Well, that would still be.
As far as I can tell, intentional states only exist spatio-temporally.
Yeah, but that's only that you have knowledge of, right? I mean, there may be things that exist or that are possible that you're limited.
It's theoretically I mean, anything is, sort of theoretically possible, but I mean, it seems like the nature of what mental states are is almost definitionally defined by time.
And even then, even if there were some consciousness external of time, that wouldn't mean that it would necessarily be a god.
Well, yeah, I think you're right, but I think whatever caused or the cause of the universe would have to be personal still, even though it's not God.
But why? I still haven't heard a justification.
How do you make the leap to that part, the personal part? How do you make that leap?
Well, an impersonal cause would either cause the effect from eternity which would mean the universe would be eternal. It wouldn't have the appearance of beginning.
Why would it have to be from eternity?
Well, let me finish. It would either have the appearance of being eternal, it wouldn't have the appearance of beginning to exist, or it would cause no effect at all. So.
Well, I mean, but why would it need to be eternal? Because I can't think of any type of cause that's eternal.
Okay. Well, in that case, then the universe would simply come about without a cause, which is...
Well, I don't necessarily see that as a problem, because you don't see cosmologists talking about cause and effect.
But that's
we're using very Aristotelian terms. I mean, this is the equivalent of me saying that when I throw a baseball, it doesn't continue to fly forever because it gets tired. That's what Aristotle thought.
I'm using
Aristotle's notions of, we don't. When you take physics, you don't describe things in terms of causes and effect. You describe things in terms of the interaction of physical bodies.
I mean, for all we know, for all intents and purposes, we could have essentially, and I hate to use this word, so sorry, but for all we know, we could have the equivalent of quantum waves interacting with each other along the lines of water and oil, and as the oil stirs, small bubbles are cast up. You know how when you mix water and oil, you get those little bubbles, and we could just be one of those, waiting to merge back into what it originally came from. And this wouldn't be something that would be dependent on an intelligence, just simply a matter of how things work.
Yeah, quantum waves and fluctuations, they're by nature unpredictable. So they could never be eternally silent or eternally changeless.
There's no such thing as eternal if there's no time.
Well, hold on. Then in that case, everything is contingent?
How did you get that from what I just said? I said you're still using terms that you need a time for, right? If you say something is, if you're saying that something is eternal, that implies that it's during all time.
Yeah. He's saying what you said was contingent on time.
Oh, no. Let me back up to one point. There are two ways to understand God's eternity. It's either through an everlasting duration of time, or either in a undifferentiated, timeless state. Biblical scholars have gone back and forth. They don't know which one is being really talked about. So if it's in like a Newtonian view of space and time, where God is in absolute space and time, yes, I think you could say that to avert the beginning of the universe. But if you're talking that God is in an undifferentiated, timeless state and wills a temporal effect, thus creating our universe, I think you...
But isn't will necessarily temporal?
Yeah, I think God is atemporal.
And actually, just as a small point, the unpredictability of quantum waves is part of the point, because they wouldn't need something to interact with them. Anyway.
Right, and you don't... I mean, you'd literally have,
universes being sprung up everywhere constantly. Then eventually dissolving back into the flow after their energy was used up. And I may have timed out.
Being created out, here and now. And why don't we see, like other things being created, like, I don't know, like a donkey defecating himself or something?
Well, that's okay. So you've said two different things. First off, we don't know. The multiverse hypothesis still, is out there, but I'm not sure of any way. I mean, I'm not a cosmologist, but I'm not sure of any way to test it. Physicists are working on it. The other thing is you're asking for a very specific ordered, arrangement of things that are highly, highly improbable to just pop out of, a fluctuation. I mean, when we see things in vacuums pop out, it's single particles. It's not, theoretically it could be a donkey, but you're talking about probability values where it's, 1 over 1 to the, quadrillionth or more. You know, like, I think probably, I don't know the equations exactly, but it'd probably be, you know, the odds of an entire donkey just popping up out of nowhere is probably steeper than the number of molecules in the known universe.
Yeah, and even more so than that. I mean, once something is separated from that so to speak, turbulence there, this is why I use the example of a bubble, it would take a while for it to merge back in with it and would be effectively unaffected by it until it does.
Well, hold on. Given infinite time, all these bubbles would, be together. All these causally disconjoined bubbles would.
It's not infinite time. It's no time.
Yeah. It's
no
time.
So here's the issue, right? Is we're switching. We don't like, our minds are just not built to think this way. But it's not infinite time. It's no time. So it's It's just happening.
Sam, I heard the multiverse. The multiverse is a view without. It's simply a way to avert the design in the universe. It's not really a serious.
It's a cosmological theory that's debated among theoretical physicists.
It's based from Russian models, And
I don't know what you're talking about. Sean Carroll is one of the biggest promoters of the multiverse, and he's a cosmologist. He's American.
This grows out of wave theory, which was then supplanted by string theory, which was supplanted to a degree by some aspects of wave theory, in which they expanded the number of theoretical dimensions from 10 to 11, but that was the only real significant difference there.
And also Stephen Hawking, who's British, Leonard Mlodinow, who's, you know, these are the people I'm thinking off the top of my head. I don't know why, you know, Russia is coming into this as a...
Yeah. In the 70s, views of different cosmological views, like the oscillating model or the multiverse model, came from a lot of these Russian cosmonauts or cosmologists or what have you. And then Stephen Hawking has said in one of his latest books that all the information is contained within our universe, that there are no multiverse. It's contained within.
I don't think he said that.
Yeah.
I haven't read the Grand Design. I haven't had the time.
I'd have to see the contest.
I'm like fairly sure, because he's pretty optimistic about the multiverse the last time I checked.
Well, that's what.
I mean, I have to ask, you know, what is your... I mean, like, I'm not a cosmologist, so I'm just saying things from what I've heard from actual cosmologists. I mean, what is your level of familiarity with this stuff? Because I've heard you say things that, you know, and I don't mean to put you on blast, but I've heard you say things that are just flat out inaccurate.
Mm. Yeah.
The thing about multiverse, you know, like they come up with a string. Well, they say theory, but I think like it's a hypothesis, really. But they've got this string theory, whatever you want to call it. But the multiverse, it was like a way to help or to kind of explain how string theory would work.
And it's also it's just a natural. Yeah, and from my understanding, it's also just a natural extension of the many worlds interpretation of quantum mechanics.
Yeah, exactly, and that was a way to avert the beginning of the absolute beginning of the universe.
No, the many worlds interpretation happened when Hugh Everett was trying to understand why what's the name of the function? God, the Schrödinger equation.
Yeah.
Why in the Copenhagen interpretation, why is it that you only trust the Schrödinger equation up to a certain point? And this was like in the 50s, and he was like, well, what if the Schrödinger equation is just a model and there's no real wave function? That would explain, and it's just the universe splitting off. That would explain everything.
Yeah.
Well, like I said, all these causal...
Why do you keep us? I have to ask. Why do you keep
I think
us...
he just lagged out for a second. Give him a second. He might be trying to talk.
Appearance of the beginning of the universe argues against the multiverse.
But I have to ask, why are you ascribing all of these motives to like where the scientific viewpoints came from when it doesn't seem to me, at least, that you're terribly familiar with the history of some of these ideas? I mean, physics is by no means my area of expertise, but
Well, I've done reading. I mean, like you, I've read. A lot of them did come up, and I have quotes of this saying that a lot of these models were meant to avert the beginning. And this
well, I mean, that's just flat out false.
Okay, well,
several of these. I mean, it just kind of it seems to me that you're taking your information from William Lane Craig rather than from cosmologists.
No, I'm taking it from people like Donald Page and Isham, the British cosmologist. So,
do you mind like linking like, I don't know, a Wikipedia entry or something like that in the side so I can take a look?
Yeah, it's not from a. Maybe you think it could be the case that you're ascribing to me, you know, reasons for trying to, you know, avert the multiverse, or?
No, I didn't say anything like that. I mean, you've said at least 4 or 5 flat-out things that I can just say off the top of my head that were just wrong. Like you said that for example, the many worlds interpretation, like the reason that came up had absolutely nothing to do with the start of the universe. Hugh Everett wasn't he was a mathematical physicist. He wasn't a cosmologist. You know, some of the things that you've said about, you know, why, you know, these models take place, and you're ascribing these motives that, you know, either, you know, in the case of, you know, these people, you're saying, oh, well, Russian scientists all came up with it, when that, you know, maybe Russian scientists contributed to it, but a lot of the mainstream people who talk about these models are American and British, and, you know, it's pretty international. So, like, I don't know why you're so, like, I personally do not care what a scientist's motives are. I care about what, you know, the results are.
Well, I think what he was trying to get at was they were trying to come up with these different models and ideas and theories about the origins of the universe, or how the universe works, whatever, to do away with God. That's not what it is. They're going where evidence is leading them, or they have ideas that they're testing. They're not trying to disprove God at all. It's like
also, cosmologists tend to be.
Disprove God.
Sorry, I thought you. Yeah.
No, they didn't, like Darwin. He didn't set out to disprove God as creator or anything. He set out to study things, and he started seeing similarities, and he studied more and more and more, and he came up with the theory of evolution. It had nothing to do with getting rid of God.
Now, hold on there. Yes, and Christopher Isham of Britain, one of the leading cosmologists of Britain, he makes this point, and I lightly posted it in here to show that it wasn't just my speculation, but maybe if y'all take a few minutes to read that or whatever.
I mean, but ultimately we're talking about ideas that aren't settled.
Yeah, but
we can. I mean, like, we can play a game of my expert can kick your expert's ass, but ultimately that's really uninteresting because Hawking's in a wheelchair. But
remember,
thank you for Shadow for like getting my very dry sense of humor. But
that's great, man. I'm sorry.
I mean, ultimately it's kind of pointless, wouldn't you agree? I mean, I'm not a theoretical physicist. I mean, my background's in genetics, and biology. So, you know, I listen to what these people say. I try to read the popularization of their books. You know, things like, you know, I thought A Universe from Nothing, you know, when Lawrence Krauss was talking about science and not trying to philosophize, was a great book. But like, ultimately, I don't side with people on controversial issues. I just take a look on them and I think about it.
Well, Sam, instead of going to William Lane Craig, what I've been trying to do is go to these physicists, and like I pointed out, they say things that a lot of these models they're really not. Everybody has a theological context, especially physicists. Well,
I don't know about that though. Like that seems like no offense, but like, I work in the scientific community.
Yeah.
Most scientists just don't they view it as either being something that's inconsequential or embarrassing if you want to bring, you know, your personal beliefs about something. I mean, sure, scientists are very opinionated, but it's seen as being really embarrassing to us if you base any opinion about you know, on
a preconceived notion of any sort, frankly.
Yeah. Well, look at the quote again, because I don't think Isham would just say this. I think if you listen to a lot of these physicists, it's not just a William Lane Craig. These physicists dealing with this issue, and yeah.
But I mean, okay. So I read that quote, but the Big Bang doesn't. I mean, I think that's kind of a naive interpretation of the Big Bang, in my opinion.
Well, look, can I provide you another quote?
Well, I mean, we can whip out quotes, but I mean, Lawrence Krauss wrote a whole book about this. You know, Stephen Hawking said that there's no need for a creator, just physical laws.
Well,
as physics advances. You know, we can talk about all these things, but I mean, ultimately, you're just throwing quotes at me, and they're controversial issues. So I mean, you're asking me to take a stance based on a quote by one person on a controversial issue. That seems kind of silly.
Well, I just gave a second quote, this time from Stephen Hawking.
Okay, what quote?
Well, I posted it, but my only point, Sam, is that they look at these things.
Yeah, do you ever read what Hawking has said in interviews about that quote?
I have.
And has he not at all said that? Has he not always said that, you know, it was something that he did for a rhetorical flourish, and that he kind of regrets putting it in, given his activism for secularism?
Okay.
So I mean, you're quoting someone out of context.
Well, no.
I mean, why are we doing this? Like, this is a guy that's disavowed at best.
Hold on, Sam, hold on. You're the one that's calling me quoting out of context and having all these motives and so forth.
He told you how you were quoting.
Where did I say a motive?
Well, you said
I'm not the one. I would be careful there, right? I've never.
Right.
I mean, you can play back the tape. I've never said that there's a motive. I don't know what your motive is. I don't know if you have a motive.
My motive. Let me explain. My motive is to show that physicists and scientists, they don't ignore the God question. Unlike if you're trying to because I have these quotes, and yeah, you have to take them seriously.
I'm not saying I don't take them seriously, but Hawking has given multiple interviews where he's talked about this quote and about how much he regrets leaving it in the final draft because he didn't realize that a rhetorical flourish was going to be taken.
Okay, fair enough.
There's also an additional factor which I have to point out here. Over the course of a person's lives, their views, beliefs, etc. do change as well. Now, this doesn't seem to be the case in this particular instance, but if you go to somebody's earlier work and find out it's contradicted by their later work, it usually means that their viewpoints changed, regardless.
Okay, well, fair enough, guys.
Well, my point a while ago was that the scientists and all this, they don't set out to disprove God. They're just following where the evidence goes. That's all. That's the only thing. And some people think that science is anti-God. It has nothing to say about God.
Nobody neutral on this point, and we all, try.
But most scientists don't. I mean, they aren't concerned with religion when it comes to being a scientist.
Yeah,
That's
it's just
a life choice. And I can say that. I mean, I worked in a lab with, the guy who I consider my scientific mentor largely was a PhD student, and he was very religious. He kept kosher. I mean, we never, it didn't keep him from it, accepting science.
Yeah,
we never talked about religion.
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
No, I was just going to say there have been many great contributions to science from Christians.
Yeah.
Great.
Yeah. It arose from, Christian Europe. That's basically where it arose.
Well, I'd be careful because it's a complicated history. I mean, the idea of an algorithm, that's an Arabic word. So, like, the foundational idea of computer science is from the Muslim world. I mean, this is the genetic fallacy, right? It doesn't, the origin of an idea doesn't, at all attest to its credibility.
Yeah, when you're talking about science, I mean, the information that they had and the technology, so to speak, that they had in Rome was adopted by the Muslim world, and then it was after the Muslim world started going ultra-fundamentalist, then it went back up to Europe. It's been kind of a seesaw effect throughout history. Now, unless you're talking specifically about the scientific method, and that's a different can entirely.
Yeah, the scholastics of the 10th, 11th, 12th, and 13th centuries, I think if you look at them, they weren't just about dictation and the deductive method, but many of them, like Bacon, were started science or were heavily influential in science. So
I'm not denying this.
Sorry, I don't understand what that has to do with any of the points that we're making.
It doesn't. This is called the genetic fallacy. And this is an idea does not gain credibility from its origin.
Well, I'm not invalidating.
Nor does its origin get credibility from the idea.
Yeah, well, I'm not invalidating an idea based off its origin. I'm giving a context.
But you are. Did you hear the second part of what I said?
Are you going to let me finish, Sam?
I mean, I just don't want you to commit the same fallacy again.
Sam, well, I don't want you to speak over.
Okay, go ahead.
Well, just for future reference, because we both respect each other, and so we should all do this constantly.
All right. So from now on, you only get to talk if you're holding the talking stick. Does everybody understand?
Yes.
Ooh, can I use the stick to beat? Oh, never mind. That's not what you meant.
I was going to throw in one little thing about science. I mean, science has been around for a very long time, and I was just looking up somebody, Eratosthenes of Cyrene.
Eratosthenes.
Yeah,
you want to know some cool shit about him? He was able to calculate the curvature of the Earth to within like a pretty acceptable amount, and this guy had no calculators. He didn't even have calculus.
And this was like in 276 or something BC.
I mean, I think properly stated, I mean, Aristotle was probably the first scientist.
Do you think Paul Davies is a scientist or a physicist?
Yes.
Okay. Let me give you a quote from him, too. I'm just, the purpose of this is just to show him that they do see these theological connotations in the Big Bang and so forth. So it's a meaningful question.
I mean, if you list just a quote from one scientist at a time, I mean, that an individual scientist can be wrong.
Yeah, that's a good point, Sam. Good point.
It's their personal opinions too. They have an opinion about something, but that doesn't speak to all scientists. That doesn't say all scientists feel this way.
Notice.
I mean, but again, like, you would be accusing me of being pedantic if I was to just quote every time Lawrence Krauss, who's a much more influential cosmologist, or Stephen Hawking, who is incredibly influential, or the string theory guy from the 60 Symbols channel.
Well, I believe Lawrence Krauss has.
Who's an atheist.
Yeah, that's a good point.
But you'd be chastising me for that, so I think that we should, unless we're stating actual scientific findings,
Let's be fair. I quoted Hawking.
Yeah, but we discussed how that was a misquote.
Yeah, what was who did I quote before that? Do you remember?
Isham.
Yeah, and that's a total of 3 so far. I mean, I have others. I'm just saying.
Okay, but
wait, hang on a second. This is kind of getting weird here, so I'm going to cut in for a moment. Now, there are scientists that are theists, and there are those that are not. There are those that will sit there and reference their theological views, and there are those that won't. Now, their theological views have nothing to do with the methodology they use in science. So where are you kind of going with this?
Well, I don't know if you can really differentiate a lot of their methodologies from their theological beliefs.
I think that I can just speak from personal experience. That's complete. I mean, that you would get laughed out of a talk for saying things like that, because most scientists try to the system that evolves around science exists specifically to divorce it from that. That's why peer-reviewed, as costly and as much of a, and believe me, I know it's a pain in the ass, the reason it exists is to eliminate, is so that you cannot be biased in this system. Well, because that's the one thing that scientists are afraid of, and if you're found to be doing that in your work, you basically can't get funding for the rest of your life.
Now, keep in mind, this doesn't just apply to theology, but also, for example, if somebody is very much in favor of the oil company that may be paying their payroll, and if that somehow influences their science, it's going to be crap. It's to try and prevent that kind of stuff. This is just not just theologically based.
Well, I mean, also, just on the point too, with the quote you put here, what's the point of this? The fact that he called it a creation event?
If you take the history of science seriously, a lot of
I'm sorry, just about this quest.
Can I finish, for God's sake?
I don't know. Can I finish?
Go ahead.
Okay, thank you. Now, with the quote that you put in the sidebar here, you know, Paul Davies talks about on this view, the Big Bang represents a creation event, the creation of not only of all of matter and energy in the universe, but also space-time itself. Now, so what? I mean, are you saying that because he listed it as a creation event, that he's also saying therefore God?
No. Can I go?
Okay, so I'm just asking you, just in the context of this paragraph right here, what are you trying to accomplish by putting this here?
No, come on, man, let him answer. Sorry, go ahead.
That physicists in the history of ideas have viewed their theology as being central to their physics and science. I can give you Newton. I have a whole book on the history of science, and a lot of them were devout Christians. So
thank you for not answering my fucking question, Josh.
Oh, I know you cuss now, but go ahead.
Okay. What are you trying to accomplish with this quote? Like I must have missed that. Sorry.
Okay, sorry. Just that a person like Paul Davies, not a Christian, not a theist, I don't believe, but I know he's not a Christian, can believe in God
there's no mention of God in here.
Yeah, believe in a creator based on their science.
No mention of a creator either.
Well, okay, a creation implies creator.
No, it doesn't. It's talking about the creation event.
Okay, well, see, now you're making...
See, so now you're putting hidden context into this, is that you're saying that just because he calls it a creation event, that therefore he has to put on some type of transcendent mind that is creating. See, this is like you're putting this into this now. I'm asking you, in this context right here, does he mention a creator? Does he mention a God? Does he mention the necessity for a transcendent being out there doing the creation itself? He's just talking about simply the forming of the universe. Whether he wants to call it a creation event or not does not mean that he is thereby saying there has to be a creator. You understand that, right?
I understand that Paul Davies makes these quotes because he thinks that there may be theological significance beyond what science can explain, even though he's not.
Can you verify that?
Well, I have other quotes.
Well, you have other quotes, but the last two you've put have been pretty weak so far, in the sense of for the argument that you're trying to put forward here.
Yeah, it's a matter of a better quote than I think.
Yeah, can I throw something in again, please? Even though they may make the statement, they may be a devil worshiper for all I care. But if their science is correct, that's the main thing. They can have their own personal beliefs about creation and God or no God or whatever. But if their science is spot on, what's the big deal? Robert T. Bacher is one of the most. He's a very famous paleontologist, highly respected. He's a Pentecostal preacher, but he believes in evolution and dinosaurs and all that. But he's still a Pentecostal preacher. You know, there's a separation there.
I mean, if when they're not in the lab, they're sitting there and talking about things in theological framework, okay. What of it? That's what I'm trying to figure out.
Yeah, I think when they're out of the lab and, you know, they do think of these things like human beings.
You saying that?
Oh yeah, I mean, I mean that's natural. I mean, if they're Christian, yeah, they think about God, but they're also a scientist, so they have to approach science a certain way, you know, to get it right, you know.
Yeah.
I'm saying this badly. I know I am.
No, it's okay. Don't worry, Heavy. You're doing fine.
I'm trying. It's not easy sometimes.
Well, I think a Christian can be consistent in his belief that his theology motivates his science, as the history of science has showed by people such as Newton and Galileo.
So Newton is really interesting. Newton's worst science was his religiously motivated science.
Yeah.
Okay.
His alchemy was religiously
Yeah.
I didn't know he was an alchemist.
Yeah, he was.
Newton would say to you that all of his science was religiously motivated.
I mean, most of the stuff where he's directly trying to... I mean, I've read biographies of Newton, and I also...
Skeptic.
We also, I mean, at least in part, Newton and I share an alma mater. So, yeah, I've read a lot. I've drank at the bar, the Sir Isaac Newton at Cambridge. Like, he was more explicitly motivated religiously by his alchemy views, not necessarily his invention of calculus, his general physics.
Yeah.
I think some of the problem we're having might be in terms of the phrasing of things. I mean, I don't know that their science is motivated, so to speak, by their religion, but more so that they don't feel that it contradicts it, and maybe even feels that what they've discovered bolsters it to some degree.
I've heard that, yeah.
Have you read a lot of the writings which say they were motivated to see like the hand of God? I have quotes on this. It's in a book. I haven't written them down, but they're quotes in the book.
Please, or in other words, are you basically saying that you're talking about people that got into science because they wanted to better understand how God did things? Is that what you're trying to say?
Yes, but not just that. That their scientific, a lot of their scientific theories were motivated by that, like an explicit motivation.
That's, I think, the part that we're questioning. The first part of it, I think we'd all.
Well, Richard Dawkins. Well, Richard Dawkins loved biology because of religion. Originally, he writes about it in his books.
Yeah.
I think that's a completely, in my opinion, irrelevant point because we're talking about motives, right? My motive for my love of science is the fact that I love knowledge, and I think there's no pure knowledge than creating your own knowledge. Does that make me a better or a worse scientist? No, that just means that that's my motive. I think my mental attributes and my work ethic and et cetera, are what make me a good or bad scientist.
Yeah, it's kind of the way that it's being presented right now, with the nice little bow that's being tied on it. Makes it sound like you're implying that they go into the lab and say, okay, what experiment can I do that'll try and prove my faith? I hope that's not what you're trying to say, but that's the way it's coming across, and that's why we're taken back so hard.
Well, that's not what I'm saying.
Okay.
If I came across that way, I was just saying that much of modern science originated in Christian Europe with the early founders of science with the explicit statement. And I listed we were talking about Paul Davies earlier, and I have a quote that kind of illustrates that he was talking of a religious context for the origin of the Big Bang. I'm just saying it's not like these men and women physicists, they work in isolation from the God question. They certainly do. I mean, everybody does, I believe.
I mean, I can personally say that I personally try to divorce any personal belief when I do science, and every scientist that I've known does the same. But beyond that, like Euclid's geometry is currently used by engineers to construct, bridges and things. We still use Euclidean geometry for pretty much everything because it's a very good approximation for non-curved spaces. Does that mean that does that lend any credibility to the polytheistic system of ancient Greece? I don't think so.
Oh, I don't think it lends any credibility. It's just saying that science and religion aren't mutually exclusive. If
religion brings any testable claims to bear, then no. But I've never seen religion make those claims.
Newton and a lot of these founders of science would say all of their beliefs are, reasonable. That's what they.
That's great for them, but that doesn't. There's no reason just by virtue of Newton inventing calculus doesn't mean that suddenly he's right about every question.
All I was saying is that that these people, these early founders of science, they weren't madmen in believing that their faith was reasonable. It's only from the 19th and 20th century militant atheist crowd that says, well, objective morality can't be scientifically verified, therefore you're crazy.
That's really funny because that's been a big thing among the new atheists, is Sam Harris's attempt to make objective morality scientific.
Yeah.
That's very ironic that you say that, but this is beyond the point, right? Like none of that stuff really matters.
Okay.
And nor should it to any intellectual discussion, whether scientists before a certain point. I don't see you giving ancient Greece or Islam the same credit as Christianity when we talk about ideas. We're using computers. The idea of a formalized algorithm originates from Muslims. I don't see you giving Muslims credibility in the same way. By the same token, you're a Christian, and I would assume you think homosexuality is immoral, and the person who designed the formal language system or the mathematics to describe it that we still use to this day when describing programming languages, Alan Turing, was gay. Does that sexuality is correct?
No, my argument, and I do value the contributions from various cultures. I do. They contributed a lot, or contributed a lot.
That doesn't lend credibility to the culture.
Can I finish? You promised.
Okay.
I'm not saying that any of it's wrong because of who invented it. I'm saying that if it's the militant radical atheist who says that a Christian theist can't incorporate his physics or his science with his faith and take them both seriously, is simply misguided.
Where did I say that, though? You can't have it both ways.
Initially, but you clarified that, so that's all I was saying. So that last statement wasn't directed at you; it was just directed at what I thought this room was.
But this is a patently silly argument, right?
We were, I think, having a better discussion before we got into this rabbit hole.
I'm kind of lost, to be honest.
So just to recap, it's the argument that Josh is putting forward right now is that theists aren't crazy.
If that's the case, then cool. I agree with that.
I will. The only thing I'll disagree with is the idea that somehow because person X had belief Y or was inspired by belief Y and then came up with a technological discovery that somehow lends credibility to that belief system. I don't think it does. I don't think Francis Crick and James Watson being atheists had anything to do with, that's really irrelevant as to whether, their findings in molecular genetics were incredibly, revolutionary in them discovering the structure of DNA.
Yeah, I agree with you. I just want to add, notice I agree with all of you said. I just wanted to add, in the history of ideas, physics and science did come about because they viewed the created order as rational and discoverable by rational means.
Yeah, but the origin of an idea doesn't lend it credibility, nor does it lend credibility to the origin.
I know, but the worldviews do have consequences, and when you have an open...
I'm not disagreeing with that, but we have to be careful to divorce these things. And you keep saying I agree with you, and then you say something counter to what I just said.
Yeah, I mean, no one's arguing with the fact that hundreds of years ago, the foundation of most universities were built on a religious foundation. That's the concept of secularism wasn't really a big, concept back then. And nowadays, we've moved away from that. But that doesn't mean that.
My alma mater was, a Methodist university for the longest time. It was an all-male Methodist university, and now I had called it the most atheistic university in the United States.
Yeah, it's just that times change. I mean, as the things that people explored 500-600 years ago when they're like I said, when these universities were built on a religious foundation, might have been ways of looking at the natural world to try to better explain the why, the how things work in relation to things like God. But as more things are discovered and certain the gap that God fills and gets smaller and smaller, it's this is what you'd expect to see, is that that things might turn towards more secular, less focused on searching for God and more about just finding out information about stuff.
Yeah, I agree with everything you said until the last part, that the discoveries of modern science somehow makes God less.
Yeah, I mean, it's demonstrable, okay, in the sense that
that's a secularization theory.
It's demonstrable because, for example, prior to understanding where lightning comes from, it was credited towards God. It was credited towards different thunder gods, lightning gods, whatever you want to call them. As our better understanding of the natural world, is increased, the need for a god to explain lightning gets, reduced to non-existent. You don't need that god anymore. So that god kind of gets phased out of the picture. And it's the same thing with most things. The more you learn, I mean, you could kind of propose any type of deity to explain something. But the more you look into it, the more you learn about it, you realize that, oh, wait a second, I didn't need to credit this to Thor. We actually have a rational explanation based within the natural world to explain this.
The reason why I and everybody else, or a lot of people disagree with you is because of the secularization theory that has been discredited. And sociologists don't buy into that anymore.
No, it's not that. It's just that those of us that do not believe or accept the existence of a god or any gods, we have no evidence for it. We don't.
Well, demographically,
that there is anything like that exists. That's all.
It's not what I'm talking about.
Well, I mean demographically, scientists have become more and more atheistic as time has gone on. I mean, poll data shows that.
You're talking about this secular thing. I'm not sure what you're talking about there, but me personally, there's just nothing that convinces me. I wasn't influenced by anybody as far as what I hold, what I think.
I'm talking about Peter Berger.
I have no idea who is that.
Well, he's the person that in the 70s came up with the secularization hypothesis that says with technology, or with advances in technology and science, we will come to a place where we slowly but surely get rid of God. And he now retracts that statement, and virtually all sociologists retract that statement now too. So basically, it's a hangover which is being peddled right now.
Yeah, but I've never heard of him. I've never heard of that idea. I reached my conclusion on my own.
Okay, fair
I wasn't
enough.
influenced by anybody else.
Never heard of a Peter Berger?
Yeah, I think you're lumping. Something's not right here.
Well, go look it up, Peter Berger.
No, I'm not denying. I don't know him. I don't know that. I'm just saying that I reached my conclusions on my own. I wasn't influenced by it.
Well, I have to ask then how do you explain the fact that, broadly speaking, technocrats tend to be far more atheistic than non-technical people?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Because that is like a demonstrable. I mean, what is it? The last numbers that I saw, something like 80 or 90% of the National Science Academy are atheistic, including 100% of the, or not 100%, like 93% of the biologists.
Yeah, when you look at the hard sciences like physics, it's not even near that close.
But biology is a hard science.
Yeah, but okay.
And I think the physicists were still like around 70 or 80%.
It's like psychology or anthropology. Yes, it's way majority atheist or non-believers.
Well, still their polling number indicated that physicists and chemists were still high majority atheist.
But ultimately, what does it matter?
I mean, it doesn't matter at all. I just,
No,
I mean, it just
matters,
seems silly to me.
Let me answer what matters on that question. It matters because of the secularization theory that you are postulating is now dead, and you are trying to revive it.
I'm not trying to revive anything.
What are you talking about? Is that like some kind of conspiracy theory or agenda or something?
I mean, this is like maybe the 6th or 7th time that he's put words in someone's mouth during this conversation. I'm asking a question. Why is it that people who are I could accept, sure, I don't know anything about that branch of sociology, but I do know that when you look at the polling data for hard scientists, they tend to be far more atheistic than the general population.
Yeah.
I was atheist before I even knew what the word meant.
Yeah, I don't even think. Yeah, I don't even think it's relevant. I'm just asking the question. I don't think. I don't think that like me having a master's degree confers any credibility to my stance on God. Like, it only confers credibility to my stance on my areas of research.
Well, I mean, I have to say, I do think it somewhat matters, because it seems like the more information, especially regarding scientists, the more information and educated someone is, the more likely they're come to the conclusion of the atheist position. That's just what it seems to me.
Well, see, I sort of cringe about that hypothesis, because it's not necessarily a terribly falsifiable one.
Well, I mean,
right?
it is
because
kind of based on statistics.
Well, here's the thing, right? It could either, it's equally probable, I don't know if they've done, maybe they've done a study where they've ruled this out, but to me it seems like, just spitballing the hypothesis, it seems like the hypothesis that these people came from, non-religious homes to begin with seems, it's at least somewhat robust to explain some of the effect. But there is, you are right, there is generally a correlation between a lack of religiosity and education level.
Of course, that doesn't apply to everybody, because, there are still a lot of scientists that are very devout Christians, but they are brilliant scientists too.
Yeah, I mean, I think that the consistent thing here, though, is that when someone steps outside of the lab, that's when they take their theological or lack thereof position.
I don't know. That's not in the history.
Josh, I think you explained that with the peer review issue earlier. Scientists have got to be aware of putting their bias into their work, because they know that it will be peer reviewed.
not to mention, most major journals require that you have your list of funding on the paper when you submit it.
Yeah. I don't know where you went.
Yeah, I don't know.
Oh, I'm here.
Oh, okay.
I didn't know if someone froze out. It just got quiet. I thought my internet was doing what it always does.
No, it actually got quiet.
It's one of the moments where nobody has anything to say for a second or two.
I have a bunch of information here that shows that between 1901 and 2000, about 67% of the Nobel Prize winning scientists were Christians.
Yeah,
So-
but also if you look at all Nobel Prizes, people of Ashkenazic Jewish descent are overrepresented. Does that mean that people from my racial group are superior to yours?
No, that's not what I was trying to get across. I was trying to get across.
No, I mean we can play correlation games all day long, but correlation does not equal causation.
Sam, let me answer before you go on. What I was trying to show is that the increase of atheistic scientists does not necessarily mean that intelligence is equated with non-belief.
I never said that it was.
Okay. Well, that's the.
I mean, is intelligence there? I mean, yeah. But that's again, like we're talking about correlation, and correlation does not equal causation.
Okay.
Well,
So-
just because a lot of
Why
Nobel
did you
Prize
want-
winners are science. I'm sorry.
Why did you want to explain the increase in atheistic physicists or scientists?
I mean, it's an interesting phenomenon. Why wouldn't I want to explain it?
Okay. But because
Yeah,
Does-
just because correlation does not equal causation doesn't mean that it's not worth discussing and stating.
Yeah. Okay, you're right. Good point. But just remember, science and atheism or non-religion does not equate. It could be a cultural phenomenon. I mean, I'm just speaking. So,
Well, I mean, no one has said that that's the case. Like okay, so like this is the same as when people trying to say, oh, you can't, if evolution, like people, I have this lobbed at me all the time because I work in biology. Like if I didn't accept evolution, I wouldn't be an atheist. So I'm motivated to be dishonest, and that couldn't be further from the truth. Like, okay, if evolution isn't a good empirical theory, that's not going to change my stance on God.
yeah.
When you keep bringing up how here's all these scientists that are Christian, like if 90% of scientists and biologists and whatever all across the world were Christian, that would not make me want to go to church and get on my knees and ask for forgiveness. Is that the point you're trying to get to?
No.
Well, I mean, also, you look at
there has to be a bottom line here somewhere with where you're going with this.
I mean, and these aren't,
to
aren't
me, anyway.
elite. I mean, these are the elite of the elite when it comes to scientists, and they are more atheist. The data suggests they're more atheistic than the mainstream of scientists, and that could be for a variety of reasons. I doubt it's because of intelligence. I think it's probably a very complicated explanation, but that's not really the point. I mean, we can talk about how 75% of philosophers are atheists. I don't think that lends any credibility to the state.
When you say 75% of atheists or philosophers are atheists, where did you get your data on that?
David Chalmers conducted a poll.
Yeah, and what did that poll interview schools like Talbot School of Theology, by the way?
I mean, well, okay, so two remarks on that. First off, Biola is a fairly low-impact, low-profile school. The same with and that double goes for their philosophy. But yeah, they interviewed all types of people. It was an open survey.
Yeah, it wasn't to Christian philosophers. The resurgence of Christian philosophy.
You're just parroting a William Lane Craig quote. That's not backed up at all by demographics.
Sam, I wonder why you keep going over me. Now, it didn't interview the resurgence of Christian philosophers, or a lot of them since the 1960s.
Yeah, but this poll is as of like 3 years ago. I mean, I don't see any poll data to reflect that. I don't see any, major survey of the philosophical literature to reflect that. I mean, the only place that I've heard that from is William Lane Craig.
No. Well, again, he didn't get any surveys, and neither did his school.
Yeah, they did.
Well, that's what he said. So I guess he's a liar.
Could you provide the source where he said that?
It's on his website.
Okay, he has a very expansive web presence.
Yeah.
I mean, this sounds like I'm quoting an actual poll. This kind of sounds like you're giving. I don't want to accuse you of lying, but I don't really see any reason to accept what you're saying.
Okay. Well, yeah.
And if there's this mythical resurgence, I mean.
Yeah, I know you don't want to accuse me of lying, and I thank you very much for that. Thank you so much. But what I'm saying is that it's on the website in one of his podcasts, and I'm not gonna, go.
But also, Biola's.
But it's true that he did say that.
Biola's not a high-profile school, and especially not for philosophy.
There's a number of Christian philosophers there.
But they're not high-impact philosophers. They're not people who are getting cited a lot. Again, you're acting.
If
I hate to say this, but William Lane Craig's not some gigantic intellectual.
I'm sorry, Sam. Can I cut in for 1 second on this? Because I'm also streaming here, and I have live chat going on my side, and a lot of comments are coming in through my side of this conversation, so to speak, that they're kind of accusing you of playing that whole Christian persecution card.
Yeah.
Would you like to respond to that, or?
Me, or?
No, not really.
No, gosh. No, I'm just wondering. I mean, we started off having a decent conversation about, this notion of creation, what that might look like, whether it would require divinity or not. And now it's all arguing over whether it makes a difference if any scientists believe
whether I
things.
lied over a quote, right? Whether I lied over a quote.
Yeah, even if the quote was true, what does it matter?
Rabbit trail, man.
Really? I mean, what does it prove? Like all the stuff about scientists and being Christian and this and that. I mean, like I said, it doesn't make me want to go to church.
I mean, also, I think we also have to realize that, again, Biola University is not a major university. Like, they're not ranked in, last time I checked graduate school rankings, they're not really ranked in philosophy. Ooh. I mean, you're acting as if, even if, they supposedly omitted Biola University, that statistically wouldn't have made a big impact on the poll.
I don't think that's an if, because William Lane Craig, he said, unless he's lying, of course, or unless I'm lying.
He's been known to do, but...
Let me talk before you go over me. Unless he's lying, he said that he talked to his philosophy, the people who work at Biola and Talbot, and none of them got a survey letter either, conspicuously.
Well, what if, let's say that my alma mater didn't get it? Would I be complaining about anti-atheist? I mean, they're trying to take a representative sample. Yeah, and from all indications, I've never heard a scholarly rebuttal to them taking a representative sample. So, I mean, this all just seems... I mean, and again, look at the size of Biola as a university. Look at how primary they are in terms of producing good scholars and good research. They're not. They're a small school.
They do produce good scholarship, and a lot of atheists and famous atheist physicists want to debate a lot of them. So I think
they want to debate William Lane Craig, but that's not because of the school. That's because of his internet presence.
Yeah. Okay.
It's the attention. This is
J.P. Moreland and Douglas Guyvin.
Yeah, they're not. I mean, these are big names within within?
All I'm saying is that if Talbot was ignored, which unless William Lane Craig is lying, then it probably wasn't a great sample.
It was one
of the largest ones ever. It was 3,000 people.
Yeah, and also that's not really a huge issue, right? Because there are a bunch of Christian universities out there.
Yeah.
I mean, do you know how? I mean, what is your training in statistics?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there's a lot of them out there.
What is your training in statistics?
Why do you want to know? I mean,
because I mean, we're talking about whether it's a representative sample.
Okay.
It could still be a representative sample if we're to model the distribution of philosophers as like a bell curve. As long as that section of the
if they to other Christian schools.
Josh, I just want to present something to you here for a quick second here. Garrett DeWeese of Biola University was one of the people that responded to it, as well as Nubiola G. Oh wait, no, that's just the last name. Let's see, Dustin Martin, David Rodriguez, Kevin W. Wong. So yeah, the people at Biola University did get participate in the survey as well.
Okay. Well, then I guess I was wrong. Okay.
No, you were just misguided because William Lane Craig is a liar.
Yeah, I don't think he was lying. Maybe he was incorrect.
No, he was probably lying.
I think. Do you think it's possible that maybe you'll have an overt bias against William Lane Craig based on how he does in the debates against atheists?
Actually, I'd like to point out.
I have a bias against William Lane Craig because he's a liar.
Well, actually,
why are we changing this to William Lane Craig? I mean, didn't Sokka just disprove his point?
But here's really the thing is, it's not that
he's lying on physics. Do you think he's lying on physics?
Well, he had a debate with Sean Carroll, who has an actual PhD and is a professor of theoretical physics, and Carroll was saying he was just simply wrong on the current state of the literature multiple times.
I got something to say about that. He got
right because of your PhD in theoretical physics.
Yeah.
You're more qualified than Sean Carroll.
No, I'm not. But there's another physicist that backed up what Craig was saying. His name is Vilenkin.
No, Vilenkin actually disagrees with Craig.
Vilenkin sent Craig a letter, an email, and he says, I very much agree with how you've represented my views.
I'd have to see the email, but from Vilenkin's work, he has said that his theorem, which only holds if quantum gravity, if there isn't some sort of notion of quantum gravity, which there almost certainly is, it is not his direct quote is not a victory for the atheist nor the theologian.
Well, again, unless William Lane Craig is lying, he has the email on his website, and Vilenkin specifically says that you have represented my views correct, and he says a lot of other things.
And also Alan Guth, who was part of authoring the Borde-Guth-Vilenkin theorem, said that he thought the universe was probably eternal.
Yeah.
So again, like we can play this game of my expert disagrees with yours, but you're quoting one. I'm going to trust the assessment of a PhD physicist over William Lane Craig.
I'm going to trust Vilenkin in saying that Craig gave a good representation. And again, it's on his website. If you do perhaps want to find it, you can find it. You can,
but also Alan Guth. So there's two problems with this, right? First, Alan Guth, who has just as much credibility in creating the Borde-Guth-Vilenkin theorem as Alexander Vilenkin, even if I grant what you're true, he says the opposite of Vilenkin. So, I mean, there's no real... I mean, at the very best, one person whose theorem that is agrees with Craig, but also that theorem only applies when there's no notion of quantum gravity, and unless you're that doesn't.
Vilenkin said unless quantum gravity. You know what? I will find the quote. But on YouTube, Guth talks on YouTube, and he says at the end of the video that, contrary to what you're saying right now, that the universe did begin to exist.
Well, Guth changed his mind in the interceding time because Sean Carroll directly quotes an email that he got from Alan Guth.
Yeah.
In the debate.
Well, I don't know how.
And also, like, I find it odd that I don't know what your views on evolution are, but this is almost as if you're trusting Stephen Meyer over someone like Ken Miller.
Again, do you think it could be the case by your earlier accusing me of possibly lying, that maybe you have a bias in what you just said? Because that's not.
He showed how you were wrong.
But I also talked about like the reason why the theorem wouldn't hold. So I prefaced with that, and also what I've said is that I'm going to trust the PhD physicist over William Lane Craig.
Okay.
Well, can I just quote? Can I just quote an exchange between Lawrence Krauss and Alex Vilenkin, September 24, 2013. It's verbatim. It says, in response to the noise regarding the use of an email communication between the two of us in a dialogue with William Lane Craig, there are two relevant points we have decided to make. The we is Krauss and Vilenkin. First, we both willingly agreed to the request from Dr. Craig to have the full email, which have been edited on the PowerPoint slide simply to save time during a 15-minute presentation by Krauss, as there was nothing in the full correspondence that either of us were concerned about sharing. Second, we both agree that the edited version does not distort the content or ideas expressed in the original email at all. Those who are claiming otherwise, including apparently Dr. Craig, are mistaken. This is a statement from Lawrence Krauss and Alex Vilenkin. So,
when was it dated?
24th of September 2013.
That's very odd, because I'll
post you the link. It's on Lawrence Krauss' Facebook page, so I'll post the link. It is.
I got one too. Mine is I think mine is only September 6, 2013, so it's not that new.
It's prior to my link.
Yeah, this is what Lincoln says to William Lane Craig specifically. Okay.
No, I understand, but I don't want to get into this thing.
I'm going to read it. Yeah,
I've read it. I'm sorry, I've read it.
All of our listeners, let me read. Okay, is that okay?
Yeah. I just want to point out that the comment I made and the link I put is in response to those problems that with the email that you're reading, and the comment is after.
It's to clarify. It's afterwards, and it's clarifying.
So, I mean, if you want to read the email, but the clarification, I think, speaks by himself. It talks about the problems and what is Vilenkin view and Krauss' view. So, you can do that, but I think it's more
misinterpreting it then, because let me read the letter, and then we'll see. It's not too long, okay? My letter was a response to Lawrence's email asking whether or not I thought the BGV theorem definitively rules out a universe with no beginning. The gist of my answer was that there is no such thing as a, in quotes, definitive ruling out in science. I would say that the theorem makes a plausible case that there was a beginning, but there are other caveats. I did not hear your debate in Sydney, but I don't think Lawrence would intentionally misrepresent my view. I have known him for a long time, and he has always been an honest and straightforward fellow. Let me go on. The Agro Grattan, it's hard to say, model can avoid singularities by postulating a small initial closed universe and then allowing it to evolve in both directions of time. I put initial in quotation marks because the Agro and Gruden do not think of it that way. But this model requires that a very special condition is enforced at some moment in the history of the universe. At that moment, the universe should be very small and have very low entropy. Maguire and Grattan did not specify a physical mechanism that could enforce such a condition. Carroll and Chan claimed that the universe did not have to be small at that special moment. But in my recent paper, I show that in this case, singularities are unavoidable. And here's about near the last. I think you represented what I wrote about the BGB theorem in my papers and to you personally very accurately. This is not to say that you represented my views as to what this implies regarding the existence of God, which is okay, since I have no special expertise in issuing such judgments. Whatever it's worth, my view is that the BGB theorem does not say anything about the existence of God one way or the other. In particular, the beginning of the universe could be a natural event described by quantum cosmology, as you said earlier. Here's the last one. The question of whether or not the universe had a beginning assumes a classical space-time in which the notion of time and causality can be defined. On very small time and length scales, quantum fluctuations in the structure of space-time could be so large that these classical concepts become totally inapplicable. Here it is. Then we do not really have a language to describe what is happening, because all our physical concepts are deeply rooted in the concepts of space and time. This is what I mean when I say that we do not even know what the right questions are. Here's the last. But if the fluctuations are not so wild as to invalidate classic spacetime, the BGB theorem is immune to any possible modifications to Einsteinian equations, which may be caused by quantum effects. Best regards, Alex. It's very hard to take that out of context.
Yeah, but you know, the problem is that either Vilenkin suffered a stroke, or is mental, or someone got it wrong, because 18 days after he said, we both agreed that the edited version does not distort the content or ideas expressed in the original email at all. Those who are claiming otherwise, including apparently Dr. Craig, are mistaken. I'm quoting Vilenkin. It's not my ideas. I haven't even got the slightest idea what Vilenkin, thinks about it.
Yeah, so, I just quoted Vilenkin.
So I think. Okay.
Yes, but what Fabio is presenting is after the email that you just read.
I understand.
And it's clarifying.
I understand that, but okay. Well, I don't see how Vilenkin's last statement about the quantum fluctuations being so wild.
Well, it's.
I don't either. But if Vilenkin felt the need to clarify that, apparently someone got it wrong. I think. I mean, if I feel the need to clarify something, it's just because something is either misquoting me or getting me wrong. If not, he would have said, you know what, he's right, fuck it. Why do we have the need to write this letter, this clarification, 18 days after your email?
Well,
what would be the plausible reason?
I believe you, so post that in the... Did you already post that?
Yes.
No, I mean the link.
I did.
You have to scroll up.
Okay.
Well, also there are good reasons to expect that space-time space-time isn't necessarily classical, and that it seems to be a mainstream notion in theoretical physics right now.
Yeah, I think the majority position is it's classical, right?
Not according to Sean Carroll.
Okay, fine. Well, I think what we should do, or maybe just me, is ask him that. So now was that?
You can watch his debate. He makes it. I mean, he talks about it a lot.
And then I got that.
Is I have to ask for you. I have to ask. When people are talking about theoretical physics, my instinct is to believe the theoretical physicist. Even if that I may not agree with that physicist on certain issues. Sure, but my instinct is to agree with the person who has the expertise in the field. Why do you have the instinct to agree with the guy in the field? I'm just asking. This isn't asserting that Craig was right or wrong. Just independent of that.
Yeah, I think a lot of physicists have, they present different models. Also, a philosophical question.
Well, I mean, but when they actually talked about, the state of the literature, and on multiple occasions, Sean Carroll said, I'm sorry, he's a really nice guy, but he basically just said, well, what Craig just said is completely wrong. When it comes to the cosmology, when it comes to when they were talking about the technical science. I'm asking why you would side with someone who has no training in that field.
Well, hold on. He has been training in that field, and he's friends with like Christopher Isham and some others.
That's not training. He doesn't have a bachelor's or a master's.
Well, I guess he's been studying this at an amateur level for like over 30 years. So that's something.
And Josh,
that's amateur. That's not actual training. That's what I'm asking. I mean, I'd personally like. Like Richard Dawkins makes remarks about philosophy. I think he's fucking idiot when it comes to philosophy. There's no training in the field.
Agreed.
And Josh, to further hit this point home, when William Lane Craig was debating Krauss said the same thing as in his discussion with him, is that he was out of his league. So,
do you think maybe some of these physicists are out of their league in the philosophical implications of what they're talking about?
Yes.
Yeah,
yes.
They haven't studied philosophy, so they're not going to be speaking in philosophical language.
Which is why it's kind of pointless to have. I don't see much use in having a philosopher debate an astrophysicist.
Well, wait a minute though. Can either side have at least enough knowledge about the other side to engage in a debate?
No, yes, but it's not required. You see what I mean? I mean, while if I'm talking with a philosopher, I'm expecting the guy to be skilled and trained in philosophy. It's not required for him to be skilled and trained in cosmology, and the same thing applies vice versa. So I don't find nothing strange if a cosmologist or a physicist is not trained in philosophy. So.
Well, also, that's why Sean Carroll went on a 20-minute rant about how he didn't like Craig's use of Aristotelian language, because he said that's just not how people talk about physics. And, he had to belabor that point a lot, and that sort of reflects a lack of training. I mean, it's the type of thing where it's a lack. It sounds to me like a lack of training on the part of.
On either side.
Craig.
Well, on either side about the opposite side is what I'm getting, because maybe when they do these debates, they should come to a reasonable agreement about the type of terminology they can use, maybe such as good as they can in layman terms.
That's not Craig's style, though.
No, Robin.
Well, I know, because it's a good way of him getting around some shit.
Well, hold on. Do you know Robin Collins? When they went to the debate with Carol, the next night, or maybe it was day, they brought in Collins and some, the theist side and the atheist side, to discuss this. I mean, it's not like I think both sides are consulting others where they're less astute at.
I don't think Krauss has any interest in philosophy, so I think that's out.
You don't think he's holds to an atheist philosophical view, or?
Well, I don't think he doesn't have. So here's like a critical difference between a lot of, especially this sort of crop of atheists and people like William Lane Craig. For Craig, he has said this on multiple occasions. He does not care what the actual facts are. He already knows God exists.
Wait, hold on. Where do you get that? Because I think I can dispute that.
He said that regardless, in some historically, the direct quote was something along the lines of, I could imagine some historically contingent context in which there were no arguments for God, or even worse, my arguments for God were false. But even in that case, it wouldn't map the self-authenticating experience of the witness of the Holy Spirit.
Yeah, that's from internet infidel type stuff, right?
No, that's from an interview that he gave and posted on his website.
Interview?
He said that in
Reasonable Faith? Was it from the first chapter of Reasonable Faith, one of his books?
Well, I mean, he said that in the book. He said it in multiple interviews. He said it in debates. He said it at least 4 or 5 times from my memory.
And has he explained that? Yes.
Yeah, that's in my mind. That makes him kind of a shitty academic and a shitty philosopher.
Yeah. But he has an epistemology, which is knowing something is true and showing something is true, right?
How do you get knowing something is true from that?
Well, that's not even what he's saying. He's saying no matter what, I'm still going to believe.
Well, I think
as what he's actually saying. I mean, look, it's fine if he has a bias, but that also means that I'm not going to trust him as much if he's so forthright about his bias. No. Whereas you take someone like Neil deGrasse Tyson as an example, who says, like, I just care about science. I've heard Krauss say something along the same lines. I mean, Krauss is just horribly disparaging of philosophy, much further than I think is justified. But to his credit, he's always just said, I'm only concerned with where the data and the knowledge lies. I'm not concerned with, any sort of end goal.
Yeah. That quote by Craig was from after his debate that he was talking with somebody, and some atheist posted it, and Craig is saying that was totally out of context.
He's written it in his book too. So how's it out of context?
The knowing and showing is in his book, but what you're talking about was after his debate at one of, I guess, signings or whatever.
He said it in multiple venues. He said it in I've seen him say it in multiple venues and videos, and I also know that he wrote it in Reasonable Faith. I mean, there's no I don't see why you're so reticent to admit that this is an obvious statement of bias.
Because I saw it on I read it misunderstood on one of the infidel type sites, and yeah, it was. And Craig talks about it, and he says that was a complete misunderstanding, and I tend to believe the author's intent. So, yeah. And can we get back to Negril? I'm sorry, what's his name? Tyson?
Okay, here's a direct quote from William Lane Craig. A person who knows that Christianity is true on the basis of the witness of the Spirit may also have sound apologetic which reinforces or confirms him in the Spirit's witness, but it does not serve as the basis of his belief. As long as reason is a minister of the Christian faith, Christians should employ it.
Yeah.
I mean, if I was to write a book on what a lack of academic integrity was, that would be on the first page as an example quote.
That's basically saying to just find arguments that would verify your position. It's not really saying, hey, let's look at the evidence and draw our conclusion from
I think that's a misunderstanding of Holy Spirit epistemology, right?
No, what he literally said is so long as that was a direct line. He said so long as reason.
Yeah, I'm not
literally what Eve just said. So long as reason is a minister to the Christian faith, Christians should employ it.
Yeah.
No.
That's a statement of academic dishonesty if I've ever heard it.
Hold on. No, it's not. If the witness of the Holy Spirit is veridical, it's not a false, unfair statement.
What do you mean veridical? It's like no, that's not proven. That being philosophical arguments, as I stated earlier in previous hangouts tonight, philosophical arguments can be put together where they're valid argumentation, but it does not mean that the conclusion or the premises are correct.
I'm not arguing deductively.
What I'm saying here is that theists can put together valid philosophical argumentations and be valid with their conclusion, but it doesn't make their conclusion correct. Mm-hmm. And that is what William Lane Craig was basically saying. Let's find good argumentations so that we can at least be valid, instead of saying let's find where the evidence lead us. Let's find the conclusion from the evidence.
I think that's your interpretation, but when in different interviews on his website and not on his website where he talks about this, he said that was out of context, and I tend to trust, listen to him instead of misinterpreting him.
You said the other one was out of context. Is it both of them that are out of context?
Right. Okay. Robert Price.
What about Ken?
Robert Price.
Ken Ham.
No, I'm not a Ken Ham guy. So.
Okay. What about Eric Hovind?
I don't know who that is.
Well, you're not a Ken Ham guy, but earlier tonight you had stated that there was two different sciences that I've only heard from Ken Ham. The historicity science, and the yeah.
Well, let me
Then you do complain about methodological naturalism a lot.
Yeah, that's what I was talking about. That we need an explanation to be able to explain various types of phenomenon, not just those immediately against our sensory experience.
No, but when you come up with philosophical explanations, you also need to have proofs within our reality that would verify that to draw you. Excuse me, if I can finish. To draw you to a correct conclusion, not just philosophical arguments, because you can make a valid argument for just about anything.
That's verificationism right there.
What?
Okay, Josh, I have a question. So I have a question because I'm guessing that you still think that William Lane Craig isn't just a fucking dirtbag liar.
That's a leading question there, Sam, but keep going.
Yeah, sorry. I should ask another leading question. How many times do you meet? No, I'm kidding. But so I do cancer research, right? And out of my lab, one of the parts of our lab develops treatments, and another part, and part that I'm more involved with, develops methods for understanding what goes on in cancer and also providing prognoses for cancer. So there's a theory behind why cancer originates called the somatic mutation theory, and basically it just states that eventually one cell in a tissue or a group of cells will acquire a given mutation, and then that mutation will drive these changes in cell states such that you now have a cancer tissue. Yeah. So if I was to say that by witness of the somatic mutation theory, I know, that it's self-authenticating, that my research, no matter what, will always, as long as it serves the somatic mutation theory, it's true. Would you take me seriously for developing cures and prognoses for cancer? Or would you say I'm a despicable human being for not opening my mind to honest academic debate where where my experiments can prove me wrong?
Yeah, I would simply say that's not sufficient justification for you to show it to be true. Now, for you to know it, it's possibly true that you could be rational in that.
That's not what I asked. I asked whether that's intellectually honest, John.
Yeah, but you didn't let me answer it, and that's intellectually dishonest.
This is completely ridiculous. I mean,
both ways.
You're siding with someone.
You just figured this out.
It's about the difference between knowing something is true by the first-person perspective. Let's say I know that the external world exists, and showing it to somebody, it's just certain things.
That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying, am I being intellectually dishonest or not? Because if I come into it with a preconceived conclusion, and it doesn't matter what reason or reality tell me, then that's a preconceived conclusion. That's dishonest. And I would deserve, if I conducted my life that way, I would deserve to be called a dishonest person.
But what if you're dealing with the God question, and God is the living...
I think with any question...
Let me answer. If we're dealing with the God question, if it's possibly true that God can communicate to His creation, then it would be justified for me to believe that. But for me to show that to you, I would have to give other types of arguments. And that's Craig's thing with the knowing and showing epistemology.
That is a very... That's a very funny way of stating what... I think that it's a very, very...
Being a Christian is
emotionally rooted stance on your part.
Interpretation of chapter 1 convincing.
Well, I mean, that's just silly. So you, like, I don't get this, right? Like, so the way that I see it is you could admit, okay, I have a preconceived conclusion. I mean, that just means that I'm not going to take your arguments as seriously. But why should it matter if I, as a person, take your arguments as seriously? Craig doesn't care. He's making money hand over fist. And clearly Christianity has been meaningful to him. I'm not going to say that he's lying about that.
Yeah, are you going to... If it's possibly true that God does exist, which according to Craig, he tries to show that throughout the book. But in chapter 1, if it's, again, possibly true, then in the absence of any naturalistic defeaters, he said he's able to know that God exists simply by the testimony of the Holy Spirit. But in order to show yeah, but
I've listened to him say this multiple times.
We simply disagree then.
I mean, I just don't know why you would consider that intellectual honesty on any level.
Well,
I you know, if I was to write that in any one of my publications, that regardless of anything, my hypothesis is true, based on some personal revelation, I would be laughed out of publication.
But hold on.
And I would deserve to be, because in no other context is that even remotely resembling intellectual dishonesty.
Notice that he's not trying to prove God by that. He's saying that he is warranted, again, it's not really basic belief, but in order to show that or prove that to you, Johnny Skeptic, we'll have to give some type of arguments.
But he's only saying he's only going to trust arguments so far as they serve his purpose.
No, I think that's
directly what he says. That's what do you think? What do you think? So long as reason is a minister to Christianity means.
Yeah. Well, if you listen to
like, do words have meaning to you?
If all truth is God's truth, then I don't see how that would be a problem.
Well, that's.
I know that.
He's still stating.
If I could interject just real quick, I think the difference between the claims being made between you two is that, and I think the point that Sam's trying to make, I think if I'm not misunderstanding him, see the difference between like the claims is that it's. One's claims are intersubjectively verifiable in that, you know, they could be readily communicated, put into words and measurements and stuff like that, and can be, you know, reproduced under similar circumstances to see if it's congruent with reality through a model of predictive power. And you know, what Josh is stating is something.
That's
more,
not what I was saying.
Well, you know.
I don't know how. So what I'm saying is what Craig is doing and what he's saying is on a fundamental level. It's not academic. I mean, it's not philosophy, but it's just not. It's just not even intellectual integrity, because he's stating he will only use the. I mean, he's saying so long as reason is a minister to the Christian faith. That means so long as his crucial methodology as a philosopher, that's the main method of the philosopher, is reason. Only as far as it supports his own worldview is he willing to use it. I think that's incredibly intellectually dishonest.
Do you think you harping on this point that you're trying to convince yourself or others at this point?
Well, I mean, honestly, I'm just utterly fascinated by your emotional, need to defend him.
Well, it seems that Sam's already convinced. He's just sharing his conclusion.
Well, how about this? Well, since you provided what you thought, and since I provided what I thought that he meant, then let's shake hands and y'all go on to the next topic. Is that fair enough?
Yeah, that's fine. I mean, I guess I'm not going to be able to convince you that that's that an obvious statement of a circular argument is dishonest. But to each his own. Well, let's move on.
Sam, remember at my last when I was speaking, when I was saying let's move on, I noticed you took a last jab. Now, I don't think you would have taken that last jab unless you weren't convinced, or unless maybe you're trying to convince yourself of this right now.
That's a little underhanded, but okay.
Yeah, I mean, armchair psychology from a random internet guy is so reliable. I mean, I could say that the reason you're arguing with a bunch of atheists is because you're insecure about your own belief, and you understand that the overwhelming secularization of society and the acceptance of alternative lifestyles such as transgenderism and homosexuality has led to a society in which, as a white male, you feel incredibly alienated because, to be honest, once your privilege as a white man, specifically a white man, begins to erode and you see a society you don't understand, you feel deeply insecure and you try to take solace in some pseudo-intellectual pursuit of what seems to be an internet cry for attention. I could say it's completely conjectural and ridiculous, but I can say it.
True, I want a penis.
Damn, son!
Sorry, I'm good at
that boy. You gonna take that, Josh?
Good. Now,
and in case you don't realize I was being sarcastic and facetious and mocking you for trying to internet psychologize.
But you're doing it trying to make a point. And my only point was that we should agree to disagree, but no, you took another jab at it, and that was all my point was. That you feel the need to make these constant little jabs to try to make your own point feel better.
Okay, I don't know if my last point was clear. I'm not a huge fan of internet psychologizing, because you don't know me. I mean, I have my issues, like anyone else, but I can assure you that my confidence in the position that I just stated is not one of my issues.
Okay, well that's good to know. That's good to know.
And I mean, if you want to continue internet psychologizing me, I will poke you and prod you until I find your smallest insecurity and then shine the world's biggest spotlight on it, because I really don't like that kind of childish behavior.
No, I don't either. Remember, you're the one that took a jab at me when I said we should shake hands and move on, and that's what I want to. I don't want to do any of that.
Well, you know, I mean, there's that whole treat others as you would want to be treated under your own book, but...
Yes.
Well, since William Lane Craig ain't here, then screw him, let's move on.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I just happened to converge on that point.
Okay, so we were talking about something initially. I forget what it was. It's been too long.
It was so long ago.
Long ago in a galaxy far, far away.
Yeah. Yay, Lee.
And a little bit of time comes, then complexity sprouts.
I don't know. I might actually cut my stream in a couple. Because yeah, it seems like the whatever that was has subsided. The first part of it was great. There was science, and then there was whatever that was.
Yeah. And if people are wondering, yeah, I did stand-up comedy in college, so that's why I'm like very good at just coming up with rants off the top of my head. Like, it's just, it really irritates people that I can just do that and keep going. Like, Mowdy was here, and I think Shadow was in the room when we were just doing Deepak Chopra quotes, and instead I just started or you weren't, and I just started.
No, I said yeah, I remember that.
I just started making up these really long-winded Deepak Chopra quotes off the top of my head just by combining these things and just going on a rant.
Woo-woo love.
It is through XSplit. Stop being a big head, Sam, says Thomas Scully. Big head. Okay. Fucking internet. Okay. Apparently Sam had an internet issue.
Which seems to be the theme of this new connection and my new
Josh.
place.
Are you Josh Furstein in disguise?
You talking to me? Yeah, are you talking to me?
Talking to me.
Yes, I'm talking to you.
Okay.
Are you Josh Furstein in disguise?
No, I don't know what you mean.
True, I want a penis.
Yeah, I was
So,
talking
yeah,
about
that
this.
whole-
I was talking about this like random creationist.
I'm not. No.
There we go. What's going on here? I just lagged out a little.
I like how Benaberry is just taking like little bits of like entertainment from like one of my little dysfunctions, which is that my brain never shuts the fuck up. It's why alcohol is my ideal drug, and why I have trouble sleeping sometimes. Because I'll just sit on the pillow and then my brain will just keep fucking going.
Welcome to the club.
So, what are we discussing now, guys?
Nothing.
Ooh, I want a penis.
We're discussing.
Not nothing.
We're discussing these nuts.
Ah.
Melanie Colic has a. Oh, I see what you did there. I see what you did there. We got a lady. All right.
Melancholic.
Don't start me with a Boston accent.
Actually, I was going to ask if they have voice. I'd love them to actually ask it, if possible.
Yeah.
The only people that can see the commenter are the ones watching my feed, so, yeah.
Okay, I'm gonna go. It was good talking to y'all.
Take care, Josh.
Adios.
Interesting. And I have a random sound clip that I could play for my audience that unfortunately you won't be able to hear, but
Ooh, I want a penis.
is my commentary on him.
Oh. I don't know if I want to hear it.
Fuck you.
It's my favorite Queenie quote.
But I didn't have really a moment of realization. I like apparently when I was 9 years old, I don't remember this, but I went up to my mom and I asked her, "Does God exist?" And my mom was an atheist, so and I will always love my mother for this. She went, "Go talk to your father about it." And yeah, it explains. Like, the stories that I tell about me and my parents explain a lot of why I'm a strange person. But, basically, when I learned about, deism, I kind of became a deist. And then when I learned that atheism was a thing, then I became an atheist because I was like, oh, this actually describes what I believe. Because I had just sort of been told that, like, oh, this is just what you're supposed to believe. And then when I was 15 and I discovered that atheists were a thing, I was like, oh, I guess that's what I am.
My situation was quite a bit different than that. Because some people come to kind of like the understanding, oh, shit, you know. And to a degree, I did as well, in terms of I didn't sit there and start labeling myself as an atheist until I was presented with a definition of it that I'm like, well, that does kind of reflect me. I don't have a God notion. I don't believe in any gods. Therefore, I guess I am. But the path that led me there, I suppose, was a long time prior to that. Granted, it's a little bit of a long story. I don't know if you all want to put up with it or not.
I think I've heard it before. I think
you have heard it, yeah, I believe. Yeah. A couple others in here have as well. But the thing is, I mean, around about age 13, was running a little bit of a cult, animal sacrifice and all, got hospitalized. After getting out of there, I met this girl that was born again. And she set herself to try and convert me. And along this road, she says to me at one point, she says, well, all you need to do is kneel down and open up your heart and ask the Lord to enter into you, and you'll hear a knocking at the door. So I did. And I knelt down and I got myself into a little bit of a meditative state. And instead of asking for any specific God enter my heart, I said, okay, if there's anything out there, tell me, what's up? And I had this really weird feeling. It was for like a split second that I felt like I knew everything but couldn't grab onto anything. And I had this moment of revelation, I guess you could call it, as if it was being revealed to me from somewhere else. And that realization just struck me, and I actually did hear the knocking. It was the damnedest thing. So I checked with other people in the area to make sure nobody else actually heard the knock. Big fucking deal. I'm like, wow, cool. Okay, so only I heard it. So I ran back in there. I picked up the phone. I called this girlfriend of mine that was trying to convert me, that was born again. And I said, yeah, it actually worked. I heard the knock, and I had this revelation. And she's like, what are you talking about? You're not supposed to actually hear a knock. I'm like, but I did. She's like, well, what was the revelation? I said, all religions are bullshit. Oh, she didn't like that answer. But that's what it was. Now, whether you want to claim that, there is some spiritual muckety-muck thing that isn't a god, or was trying to tell me that religion's all wrong, or what have you, or if you want to claim that it was just my subconscious communicating to me, that's entirely up to you. But I spent about 20 years under there trying to figure out what the answer was, and for me, there ain't nothing out there. At least nothing like that. So, yeah, whenever somebody comes in and tries to convince me of a god and claims that it's been revealed to them in such a way that they can know for certain, just the opposite's been revealed to me.
Mm-hmm. Dib, ask your fucking question.
Well, I'll ask my question to Sam. I remember I saw a video a little while ago that said that you were going to start doing things on your channel, like you're going to take papers from creationists and stuff and go over them on your channel. I was actually looking forward to that. Have you done that yet?
There's really been no one who has come forward.
That sucks.
There's one guy that did, and he presented a paper, and I was like, oh my god, I can't do this paper. And like, why? And I'm gonna make a video about it soon. I'm just like horrifically busy. Like it is right now known as the most difficult course during my entire PhD program, and that's why I'm drinking a beer right now. I've gotten every problem right in the course so far. It just doesn't make it easy. But yeah, the only paper that someone came forward with was a paper that it's never been cited by anyone, so good start. And it wasn't an experimental paper. It was just like a computer program that just implemented some population genetics equations. And this person, who I don't want to say that they were a dullard, but the reason they chose the paper was just because of who the lead author was, because the lead author is a known creationist. Mm-hmm. Even though when you look through the citations of the paper, they cite like evolutionary biologists, because they're using population genetics like equations, and all of those are evolution based. I mean, that's pretty much what population genetics is. Yeah. So I was just like, I can't submit my audience to this. Like, someone make a video about it, I'll say, I'll go over the paper if you really want me to. Yeah. But it seems like it seems like a waste of time, because it doesn't present any new findings. It's just a computer program. And that's not to say that every presentation of a computer program or a methodology is as boring as this paper sounds. Mm-hmm. It's just that this is a really shitty paper. And it's in a really crap impact journal, so it shouldn't be a surprise.
Sam, have you spoken to Tommy Hall? Scared to ask.
I'm just glad that I managed to find my nephew Mayo proof of God quote.
He loves epigenetics.
Hey, speaking of which, Sam, like how much does your research go into the concept of self-organization in biological systems?
I have no idea what that means.
If Sam is even still there.
Sam, put down the beer.
He fell over.
Could be. I don't know. Maybe that argument finally got backed up in his brainstem and he has to clear it out or something with some more booze. And,
or he disconnected.
Or his internet connection's fucking
Sam.
up again. His internet.
Sam, tell me about. Oh shit.
His internet's fucking up again. He's got to reconnect. His internet's been flaking out for a couple days now.
Right.
Unfortunately, get used to it. I just got another Skype of fucking internet.
I was just trying to see how, like, what was the naturalistic explanation behind the specified sequential.
Yeah, I'm putting Sam's quote on the screen there for a moment to showcase for everyone, because why the fuck not?
Thank you. I stand by that statement.
Can we quote you later? We won't have to misquote you, right?
No, you will not have to misquote me.
Sam, how much does your research go into the self-organization of biological systems?
Not at all.
At all?
Not in the least. Someone I saw in the side chat before my internet decided that it was going to be like the girlfriend that cheated on me. By that I mean an unforgiving bitch that betrayed me at every corner.
Stop working?
My internet, for whatever reason, it'll just disconnect randomly.
Yep.
And then and then I have to reconnect it manually.
Yeah, I had a great
so that's why, like,
I had a great talk with Sam yesterday while he's having these problems.
Jeez, your relationship must be complex, man.
I was going to say, well, I was talking with Sam the other day. It was a great talk, but we had to have it 5 minutes at a time because of his friggin' internet.
Yeah, but someone had mentioned epigenetics in the side chat, and I think I was telling Shadow. I don't know if I was telling him, but O'Benaberry mentioned it. So one of my lab mates, the person who I'm actually working directly under, he's about to publish a gigantic on epigenetics. Like, this is going to change our understanding. Basically, it looks at HIV and epigenetics. I can't get into any more details than that, but it changes the understanding of fundamentally what happens to patients when they get HIV. In some respects. It's going to be a Nature paper, wow. I am fairly sure. He's ridiculously smart. He's ridiculously smart, and I feel like an idiot when I'm around him. I was explaining, like, a bunch of stuff that, like, my lab mates, or some of the stuff being, like, I had to be intentionally vague, because obviously I don't want to reveal research ideas, but, because I try to be an ethical researcher whenever I can. But I was explaining to Shadow, like, some of the shit we were going over, and it was, it's some pretty crazy stuff, like, and everyone there is just, like, super, super smart, and I was just explaining how much of an idiot I feel like when I go to lab meetings.
But then you can get on the internet and hangouts and feel better about yourself, Sam.
I don't feel better about myself. Like, I feel like I get driven to drink even more than my just natural psyche drives me to drink when I go on the internet.
Wow. The annoying theist leaves and the conversation pretty much stops. We're just kind of like, okay, now what? Should we talk about movies or music or games or I don't know.
We did that the other night actually for like 4 hours.
Oh wow!
It's been a while since I've been. It's been a while since I've been in a hangout with a guy who had a man crush on William Lane Craig.
Yeah, you don't see as many of those anymore. I don't understand why these people like, well, William Lane Craig. He doesn't say anything different from one talk to the next in general. And half of his arguments are just so fucking stupid. I mean, you know, if realities if there are so few realities in which life could exist that if you put them as little red dots, and made all the ones where life can't exist blue, you wouldn't be able to see the red dots rather. But yeah, they'd still be there, Willie. they'd still be there, so fuck off. And you know what? In each one of those red dots, we'd be having the same fucking argument.
See, it sounds fascinating and reasonable. So, that's part of his,
Well, he uses philosophy to validate his position, and I think that's why theists kind of flock to him.
But here's the thing, right? Like, I used to think that that's what philosophy was. Like, that's why I hate William Lane Craig with a passion. And then I went to Cambridge and took a philosophy course when I went abroad, and I was like, oh my god, they're actually smart.
Yeah, he doesn't really give a good picture of philosophy, that's for sure.
No, and he's not exactly considered to be a top philosopher, other than by specific Christians and like apologetics. Yeah. He's irrelevant.
I didn't want to just be a dick to, like, well, by the end of it, I didn't care. Like, I was trying to be, for me, like, that's the thing, is I have to be like, don't be a dick for other people's sake. But, like, because, like, I just am naturally, like, there's an amount of patience that I have for people, and I constantly work on it. It's what makes me as a teacher sometimes iffy, is the amount of patience that I have sometimes. But I didn't want to just say at one point, just go, you realize that Biola is just not even a real school to me. Like, I say this all the time, because they have to take an oath. Like, faculty there have to take an oath to uphold. I don't consider that.
Wait a minute, you broke out. What?
They have to make a faith-based oath. So realistically, even if they did send the survey there, no one could have answered it, any other way than based on the oath. Even if
they were questioning and.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, there could be people there that actually have an atheistic standpoint, but have put too much money into their education and don't want to leave.
I mean, they're a couple-hour drive from me, and I've always had sort of the, just like the temptation. Like, I've never been the type of guy where I convince the innocent girl, but just like corrupt some of the Biola girls, just for a laugh, not for any real reason. But I've never been that guy. I've never had an innocent bone in my body.
Oh, you're so evil.
I am.
Such a turn on.
I don't know. It sounds like half of the people in my chat have a crush on you, Sam, including some of the guys. You might need to worry about that part.
Oh, it's fine. I live next to the gay neighborhood. It's not anything I don't see if I walk the wrong way.
Oh, there you go.
And it's considered one of the most gay, and I live in California, and this is considered one of the gayest neighborhoods in California.
Where are you at, Sam? Where in California?
I would rather not.
Better to not say online for security.
Yeah, I had someone at my old university call my old university.
Okay, let me ask this then: northern or southern?
Southern.
Okay.
Well, for the sake of the people that are watching on my side of the stream here. And hi, Barry. Thank you for jumping out of the call and joining. I'd like to state that those of you that have been there for a while, if you refresh, you will see a link to Xbox's channel and to this video on his side. There's only about a minute difference between the two of them. So if and when I do cut it on my side, you can just jump the hell over there. And we also do, because Xbox, did you actually internally on your regular video post a link to the Hangout, or do that today, or just do standard invites? Okay, cool. Also, if you want to join in, because we do have 2 openings, feel free to bounce over to his channel and click his happy little join link there. There, and it's also linked in here, but it should be linked on the video on my side too, so either way.
So what inspired you to do this link up, Shadow?
Well, actually, I was listening to the conversation. It started getting interesting. I'm like, no. I'm not going to be another fucking offline hangout with an interesting conversation that is forever lost in time. So I said, hey, I think I'll go live with it. You mind if I stream? And he's like, yeah, sure, fine. Then a little bit later, he hits the button too. So either that or right before, I'm not sure which. But I was already streaming, and I already had a bunch of viewers, so I'm like, yeah, fuck it.
Cool. I saw it, and I was like, wait, why am I not in this? Like, I am not as busy tonight, and I feel like getting another beer.
Yeah, no shit.
And then I came in here. And I'm gonna get another beer that I found an horchata beer, which is really strange. I did not know that they exist. I live by a lot of breweries, and it's fantastic.
Yeah, we have one beer in our fridge that we've just refused to open because we love the bottle, called Buddha beer, and it has this little chubby Buddha with a belly thing and everything.
At some point, Heathen, I'm gonna need to mail you like some good beer, because I live by a ton of breweries.
For that, I will Skype you my address at some point. That's address worthy.
Yeah, well, there's a brewery around the corner from me that has a peanut butter stout.
Ooh.
And if you like peanut butter and you like beer, you will like the peanut butter stout.
Actually,
I wouldn't start a conversation on peanut butter, because one last hangout I went in, it went south pretty fast.
Well, that actually sounds pretty good. A lot of people like to eat peanuts when they drink their beer. It's not a bad combination.
Actually, if you send us a bunch of beers, if you send us a bunch of beers and give us the name of the brewery, we could actually see about getting in touch with Lee, who you've seen on my channel plenty of times. His channel's all about beer tastings.
I should actually talk to him just because of the neighborhood in which I live.
But yeah,
if the breweries.
Yeah, because
it would obviously have to be online or offline, because I like, now it's really weird now that I have like a somewhat not 100 subscribers. There are people who ask me quite regularly, where do you live? You're awesome. And I'm just I'm just a fucking kid on the internet. I'm not, I'm really not awesome. You should see, my mom, is so disappointed sometimes. I was I'm just a dude with problems, like anyone else.
No, Sam, you are awesome.
It feels like that sometimes. Other times I'm just I work too much and I need to drink.
Sam, are you antisocial?
No, I wouldn't say I'm the opposite, but I'm fairly social. Until recently, I was I was going out. I was going out a little bit more often than I am now. I'm just a little bit busy, but no, I'm a pretty social person, and I was dating multiple people at one point a few months ago.
That sounds painful.
Yeah, it really was. It was not anything what I imagined it to be.
Christian women?
One of them, yes.
Oh, wow.
He went to a Catholic school near me.
Did they know about each other?
God, I hope not.
Catholic high school?
No, Catholic college.
Biola!
Not Biola. Biola's not Catholic, and B, not Biola.
True, yeah.
Because I just stated that getting with a Biola girl and corrupting her influence and influencing her in horrible ways is a fantasy of mine. I guess it could still be a fantasy if it's already been a reality, but it robs the reality.
That is so funny.
Alright, time for another beer.
Getting distracted by too many comments here.
I feel like people are just remarking on me just saying ridiculous things because I think they're funny.
It could be, I don't know, man. But on a note, Sam, though, yeah, you can, if you want to have fun doing the taste testing thing, Lee has a pretty substantial channel that he just does tastings and whatnot, and I'm sure he'd welcome somebody doing some stuff from another region. And of course, he's completely outside of our community, so...
Who's this guy?
Lee. You've seen him before in some of my hangouts. He's not here, obviously, but...
The lead singer for Disturbed. Sorry.
What's his... I'm trying to remember his last name. I'll look it up later, Fabio. I'm not going to say it.
Yeah, just send me the guy. Because I had a massive evening last evening. It was... well, no, actually 2 evenings ago. It was really good. There was me and my wife. We smoked. There is a company around here which makes a cigar once a year, particular one. So we both had it. It's massive one. It's about 4-hour smoke with 2 local beers. Really good actually. So we had a massive evening.
Let me see. Yeah. Yes. Let's see. I'll find them. I just have to turn off my comments for a moment. I think it's... Of course, I have to jump to G+.
Oh, you can use Skype. There's no need to...
No, I have to go to G+, because I can't remember what his full ID is.
Okay.
You know. Ah, okay. There we go. Got it. And I will Skype that to you now that I can. Let's see now. Fabio. Oh, hi, Roy.
Hey, Shadow. What are you doing? What is that? I've got you white boxed. What are you?
I started a live stream, and then Xbox did too, so we're actually simulcasting.
XSplit.
Yeah.
Oh, nice. So how's that working? There's no voicing going on in the background. They're just texting.
Yeah, they're able to talk. Hang on a second. There we go. They're able to actually type live in what they're talking about and what have you, so I can have their live comments up, the internal comments up, and all that fun stuff.
Oh, that is too cool.
Yeah. I don't use it that often, but what I do... No, Google Plus doing the regular Hangouts is easy, it's lazy, and it doesn't require me hurting my ears by wearing headsets for hours on end.
Nice.
And for that matter, it's probably about time for me to start charging this thing, because I'm probably running low by now. Might as well go wired. There we go.
Let's say hey to Flavio and hey everyone.
Hey guys.
There we go.
Hello.
Dave.
But anyway, I think we're kind of winding down. I think I'm probably going to see about cutting it on my side in a few minutes, unless we have another topic to bring up. Because right now that the beer is gone.
Well, I'm here with the beer. But I can't keep, there's only so much.
You going to be around on Friday night, sir?
We'll see. I might be doing something with a friend, but I don't know yet.
Well, if you are, let me know. Hell, I might postpone it to Saturday, depending on who the fuck's around. But the time has come, and unfortunately these days, courtesy of, like, visiting time with kids and all this kind of stuff, I have to schedule my yearly binge. But, yeah, there will be a drunken shuffle to commemorate the loss of my first daughter.
Oh.
I would love to be there.
Yeah, and you're one I'd love to have there, especially because for the one time of the year I get to actually let myself get tanked. I usually don't even drink, hell. It gives me a cheap drunk, though.
Yeah, well, for me, I'm trying to drink a little bit less because what happens is my hangovers get... I'm a bit of a crazy person. Like, the same impulse that makes me work really hard in school... I've explained this to you a couple times, Shadow, but the same thing that makes me work really hard in school and work hard at, like, becoming, like, an six-time all-regional athlete while I was in college and found a fraternity, like, that kind of crazy shit also makes me drink. I drink the way that I do everything. And so I've had to cut back on drinking because my hangovers get so brutal that I cannot be productive the next day.
Oh, no shit, yeah.
So I have to cut back because because if I'm gonna do something, because it's not like I drink every night, but I pick one night to drink all of the beers.
And actually, somewhat to respond to a comment made on the side, a lot of the hangouts that I've been in, the conversation in the sidebar tends to be more interesting than what's going on in the actual conversation. Not true tonight, but true in a lot of them. And I'll tell you, if I were to bother at some point, and no, I'm not this much of a sadist, if I were to bother to go into a G-Man hangout at some point, I would definitely have to simulcast just so people can see the shit that goes on in them. Because, holy crap, the stuff that's in the sidebar, in those hangouts, and a bunch of the other ones, holy shit, man.
Yeah, it's yeah, I mean, it's not interesting to talk about how I'm like the definite like. So, Eve, do you know the definition of what a binge drinker is, according to like some institute on alcohol abuse? Because I looked this up when I was in college. The definition is 5 drinks in one night.
Really?
Really?
It's it's like 5 or 6 drinks in one night, which means that I regularly double a binge. Weekly.
Well,
if not triple sometimes, and on those nights, I usually wake up in the morning with my light still on in the room, my shirt still on, a half-eaten burrito, and my shoes still on.
Oh, hang on, I'll be right back.
Is the half-eaten burrito, is it like hanging out of your mouth when you wake up?
Or your shoe?
Depends on the day. Depends on if it's whiskey or if it's tequila. Because I hang out with Mexican chicks sometimes. It happens. I don't like tequila, but I'll drink it.
I don't mind tequila, but it will straight up fuck you up.
Stick to whiskey, wine, and beer. Serve me well.
But really, I mean, 5 drinks a night, you're a binge drinker?
That's what they consider a binge. Is something like it was either 5 or 6 drinks. It was not a lot of drinks.
Okay, one important question: when does the night start?
I think it's like
that's crucial.
I think it's that many drinks within a 2 or 3 hour period.
That's not that bad.
Well, that's a little different if it's a 2 or 3 hour period. I mean,
6 drinks in 3 hours, though. That's 2 drinks an hour.
That's like
That's. I don't want to say that's weak because that makes me sound like the alcoholic that I would be.
You're nursing your drinks at that point.
That's barely social, you know. It's
barely social, Fabio says.
Yeah.
Fabio, did I tell you about how my future wife? She's sadly back in Italy, but she was an exchange student at my old university. They'd have exchange students come in and they'd TA their own native language.
Wow.
And she was an Italian girl, and I never dated her. She only saw me as a friend, but she's fluent in 4 languages, and she can cook well, and she's smart and cool. It's not fair, Fabio. It's a good country you live in. Everyone's really chilled out.
Yeah, I don't know how we managed to let her escape, actually, but, good for you.
Well, maybe Fabio can track her down for you and, tie her up and send her back to you.
She's...
Oh, yeah.
Let's see.
I don't know where she lives now, but she's from San Salvo.
San Salvo. I have no idea where it is.
It's near Bologna because she went to school there.
I think my mic's screwing up.
I'm close to Bologna. I've worked there for 5 years, so yeah.
We can hear
So
you.
you could run into her and be like, "Sam loves you."
I mean, listen, man. If she's from that area, I understand a lot of things. Because I mean, the girls over there, they're brilliant.
Okay, I'm gonna have to switch my stream here for a moment. I know y'all in here can hear me fine, but I'm coming in soft on my side. It looks like, but I gotta show something to Fabio here, so I gotta go on cam for a second here if I can.
Oh no!
What is that? Hold on a second. Hold on. It's the other way around. I can't figure out what the hell is.
Oh, sorry. Let me flip my screen here. There we go. Let me change my y-axis.
Okay.
Saragossa.
Can you read?
Cool. Yeah, I see where it's coming from. I don't know who makes that. Yeah, but yeah, cool.
Alcohol, yay!
Yeah, I was checking to see. I was checking my vodka supplies, and I was like, "Oh, I should mention this to Fabio. That's kind of fun."
I'm
gonna go back to.
Yeah, but you should drink it.
I don't know. It's been sitting there in there for a while, and it might be for a special reason. I don't know. I might pull it out for this if my wife doesn't have a special thing set aside for it. I don't know. I'm used to vodka, so it takes an awful lot.
Yeah,
No,
I mean,
tonight,
next
man.
time you show me the bottle, it better be empty.
Okay.
Just saying.
I'll work on it. Probably this weekend, because, like I said, I don't usually drink, but when I do.
Nick's demanding that you drink it right now.
Oh, kiss my ass. It's the wrong night for it.
I had a friend in college. His name, I guess it doesn't matter. I mean, probably plenty of people. No, I don't want to say his full name, but his first name was Ivan, and we used to have the Ivan rule, which was he didn't believe that you had a complete refrigerator or alcohol supply unless you had enough alcohol to kill every person that lived in the apartment. I don't necessarily still live by those rules, but I won't say that I don't live by those rules.
Wow.
Not modally necessary to use the nomenclature of William Lane Craig.
Had to bring up Craig again, huh?
William Craigslist.
I have a theory about William Lane Craig. I think he's a sociopath because he gives me the creeps. Him and Benefang X give me the creeps.
So that's how you can determine a sociopath?
Well, I mean, also because after the Newtown shootings, he was talking about how lucky the kids were to he had this creepy smile on his face while he said, like, actually, in reality, the kids that were killed in that massacre, they're better off now because they're going to be in heaven. And I just wanted to scream at the YouTube, just being like, make a frowny face. Like, at least make an attempt at a frowny face.
Wow.
That's why I have a special hatred for that. And I at that time I lived very close to Newtown, Connecticut. So I was on the East Coast where everything.
It's almost as bad as some of these people that are like, oh, that's the judgment of God.
Mm-hmm.
I think the bad thing about, like, the judgment, and I don't really know about that because I was raised, like, I was not raised, I was, like, nominally religious. So, like, I had a bar mitzvah, but we were Reformed Jews. Like, we didn't keep kosher. Like, shrimp's delicious. Why would I keep kosher? And that was my dad's attitude, and he was the supposedly religious one, even though he's not really religious anymore. But, like, I never understood because I was never, like, shamed into shit regarding, like, religion. And that's, like, because I have friends that still are, like, really screwed up about a lot of stuff because they were raised really strict, like Catholic or evangelical. And I think that's the tragedy. Sorry, this is just drunken rambling.
It makes for a good conversation. You ain't gotta apologize. Crickets.
I'm just reading the two chats on Shadow's thing. They're like massively entertaining. Like, Fabio, one of these days I'm going to learn Italian. I'll go visit you guys over there because I want to go to Italy, but I want to know Italian when I go. Because when I went
I've got room around here, so you can come anytime. And actually, I know a couple of guys which live in your area, so they can vouch. That I'm not some crazy fucking psychopath, which is luring people into his home to skin them alive. I eat babies because I'm an atheist, but apart from that, it's okay. I mean, yeah, you can come anytime.
I like a good baby as long as it's.
Oh, I make excellent babies. I got wood oven in my garden. They get crispy and it's beautiful. Yeah.
I prefer slow roasting personally.
Okay, we can do that. We can do that. No problems.
Well, one of the things that I noticed is because I've been to Spain and I speak pretty much fluent Spanish, and that's like a very fun experience. Like I love like trying to learn the new language. And when I went to Brazil this summer for 10 days. I speak. While I was there, I learned like a passable amount of Portuguese, but I want to learn more so that I can do Brazil again and not, you know, be so reliant on other people. And then I want to do. I know Italian is so similar to Spanish and Portuguese that I want to learn it as well, because I feel like it's so much fun to speak the language with the people. And it's like such a life enriching skill because the Romance languages are so much prettier than English.
Yeah. Blasphemy.
Well, he's right. I mean, I see nothing wrong with what he said so far, so...
Fabio saw nothing wrong in me complimenting his country and language.
Not at all. I mean, you know, it's a nice change, because, yeah, but, yeah. Cool.
You mean America? I was like,
yeah.
And unfortunately, my wife isn't awake, so she can't go, I'm Fabio, I'm from Tuscany, everything's so beautiful.
That's really funny. Well, like, that's the thing, is I have a very, like, I don't want to say acerbic is the right word for it, but just sort of that sensibility about myself, about, the neighborhood now. And I used to live in sort of the rich white people area of my city. And I like to say that I'm more racist against rich white people than any black person could be. Because I absolutely hate white people. Because I know everything that's wrong with our culture, because I grew up in a rich white suburb. So, it's sort of that same thing where I'm very self-effacing.
Wait a minute now. You hate the people or the social construct and conditioning?
Oh, I hate the social construct. I'm just, you know, it's usually just me joking, you know.
Well, I didn't really take you seriously. I'm just saying.
I don't. Yeah, it's a joke with friends, because like I really, it's mostly I just really dislike American suburbia and that type of Americana, which I guess makes me fitting for being in the hipster neighborhood with my love of craft beers and my inability to grow a full beard.
So does what is it? Jesus Christ something or other? Jesus Christ blah blah blah. Do you actually have a mic, or do you just like enjoying coming in and religion bombing people in chats?
Oh, what is he saying?
Just start reading.
John 3:16, yada yada yada. He's not trolling, he's professing the true word of the Lord in type because he apparently has no mic.
Done.
You know what's cool about what you're doing, 13, is that if we wanted to, us that chat a little bit more than we speak sometimes, like me, sometimes I'd rather chat in the side chat, we can actually chat with the people.
Yeah, I keep thinking that I should do more hangouts along this kind of line, but at the same point, it's more effort and requires a headset, and it's just, I don't know. I'm just a lazy bastard, I guess. It's pretty easy though. To get and XSplit, I think you can get a free version of it that has like 4 different tabs. Mine has like 12.
XSplit is pretty damn cool. Yep.
Yeah, it's a good little bit of software. You know, it's a shame Jesus didn't have a microphone. I always thought he liked speaking to the people.
Yeah, I know.
What's the name of your program, Shadow?
XSplit. I'll type it in.
Okay, I appreciate it. We'll look into that.
The license on it's pretty cheap, but it really does allow for a lot more versatility. And actually, let me bring up a screen, another screen region here for just a moment. Screen region, there we go. And instead of having, you know, the regular type-in chat, it's got this deal here. If you take a look at the screen, so basically everyone that enters in a comment, it shows up in this kind of format. So it's more of a live conversation. So when you type something in and just go hi,
so it just combines the two. Yeah, that's cool.
So you just go hi and it pops up immediately. And people tend to talk a lot more because they're not just leaving a comment and maybe responding to somebody. It's more of a running commentary, which I think is a lot more engaging for the audience. But as I said,
yeah, and some people do like that.
Yeah.
Me personally, like you, Shadow, I would rather talk than text. And rather listen than read.
Yeah, but at the same point, it's a way to make the people that are watching feel more
right.
engaged.
But some people like that. I agree. It's good. I like that. I like to provide, for people who like doing that. Like Eve just said, sometimes she likes doing the chat better.
Yeah.
Hey, I want to say hey to Benny. Welcome, Benny.
Once again, I plan on shutting this sucker down once it hits the 3-hour mark, which is about 6 minutes from now on my view of it. Now, granted, what we're saying inside here is going to be a little bit before it shows up, but for those watching, the link should be in the description. You may need to refresh to see it, and feel free to go and watch the rest of it on Xbox Fiends channel, because I'm not running something past 3 hours. And I'll at least wait for his little text to scroll up there, so that it is the official last one.
LOL, Eve. LOL, I saw what you texted.
Yeah, but it's kind of fun because I have a little bit of the running commentary. And the thing that people always miss out on is, as I was saying earlier, in a lot of these conversations, the reason why you'll get like Benaberry jump in is because he knows in a lot of these, the internal chat is more engaging than what's being said.
This is true. At times, I totally agree with you.
So I can explore that a little bit. Oh, and Jesus Christ has come to my channel. Hello, Jesus.
There are also times when the conversation between two people is so dense and packed that you don't really have time, to get your voice into. So the scrolling chat is really useful.
Well, the kicker is with the Jesus guy, who's now in there adding his own commentary. The thing is, when we have people in a call that can only have up to 10 people and one of them refuses to talk or can't talk or what have you, they're just kind of taking up space at that point. If you wanted to have a discussion, we would have been more than happy to have one, but without you being on mic, it's not really engaging for an audience.
Yeah, exactly. And if there's people waiting to come in, that's kind of sort of what Nate and I are trying to work out on how's the best way to do that, to kind of... It's tough at times.
Yeah, it's not an easy balance. I mean, when I'm doing shuffles, a lot of the time I'll sit there and just do a Mickey Mouse roll call and go down the line and see who's answering. If you don't answer, you're gone.
Yeah, I think I don't know if there's a better way to have people be entering into the call. For my, I don't know how to put that. And you should automatically be thrown into the, when somebody drops, that way it's first come, first serve, rather than trying to hit that button all the damn time. You know what I'm trying to say? So if they could work that out somehow, I think that'd be the fair way to do it, because sometimes, 4 or 5 people all want to come in at the same time. And if somebody's been doing it for 10 minutes and somebody just comes in and does it for 10 seconds and they get that spot, I don't see how that's fair.
Yeah.
Yeah, but they would really have to, that would take a little bit more of a complicated system, because they would have to have a system that would organize that shit.
Yeah, it's kind of a nuisance, but just as quick commentary for the people on my side. Give me 1 second.
True, I want a penis.
There we go. Thank you.
Yeah, but as these hangouts start getting more and more popular, a lot of us get frustrated if we can't get in. But that's the goodness about using HOAs, so that we can at least watch the outside chat, watch it from outside and listen to it, because a lot of in the beginning, when I first started 3.5 years ago, people were so afraid to do live hangouts. It's like, I'm not going live, I don't want people to know what I'm saying. And it was like that was painful, because once it filled up, you didn't even know what was going on, and you couldn't get in.
Well, actually, I've noticed quite a difference. Well, not every time, but there is a difference between a live hangout and just a private one, not on air. And I'm personally don't like too much live hangouts, but I mean,
really,
yeah.
Well, what do you think is the main difference for you, Fabio?
Oh, I mean, at least to me, live hangouts tend to. I mean, a lot of people tend to be just there for the show, you know. While I found, you know, usually speaking, they're way more honest and, you know, cool if they're not live. But you know, it might be just me, it might just be, you know, the people I met. So I don't hold it as a general rule, but that's my opinion.
Yeah, no, and I'm sure it's different for a lot of different people. Me personally, you know, I like the recording aspect of it. I always have, even before Hangouts came out. You know, I always wanted to, like, I've been on Skype since 2004, and you know, they have an element of recording these Skype chats. You know, whether it's one person, 24 people, doesn't matter. It records the whole thing. So I always liked recording, because the type of conversations I like to have, I can go back and grab sound bites out of them and utilize them for other things, because I do some entrepreneurial stuff as well. So it's like, it scales. Like when this person said this, I don't have to repeat this to the same, you know what I'm trying to say? It's like it scales when it's recorded, and a lot of people can go back and watch it again, or if they weren't able to participate. So I've always had the mindset that whether I'm live or whether I'm not live, I'm still me. I say the same thing. I do the same things. But a lot of people are like, no, live, no, and I don't want people to know me like this. It's like, you know what I'm saying? I think that's the case by case situation for people. They don't want to be seen in that light, whatever that light is for them. But I think all of us are getting used to being on air and could care less who sees it, right? If Mama sees it, so what?
No, but it's not the saying, you know. You know, sometimes in a conversation we can get from a conversation to a discussion, and I found, you know, personally that on Hangouts which are not live, people is more willing to get to the other point without feeling, without, you know, being on the stage. And you know, when you're on the stage, there is sometimes this weird feeling that if you admit the other guy might be right in something like that, you know, it's a personal defeat. So this is basically the pivotal point of what I was saying. It's way more honest. It's way more easier to have a conversation with someone. You know, I'm finding out that you're wrong about some things that you thought were right. And if you're not on the stage, I generally found that people is more willing to actually have a good conversation, a good discussion. But again,
yeah, you know, again, it's different strokes for different folks, right? And it's
yeah, no, I agree. I mean, me personally, I've been wrong so many times that makes no difference if I'm live or not. So, but you know, I don't give a, you know, I would say a flying fuck, but you know, I would give, you know, too many importance to that, you know. But for some people, for some reason which is beyond me, it seems to be really important, and you know, they feel that as a personal defeat, and you know, they get aggressive, you know, they get snickering, and I don't really like that. But you know, let me put it this way: I've seen the difference between some people in live hangouts and in non-live hangouts.
Yeah.
And they were way better in, you know, when there wasn't live. So again.
Yeah, you know, I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing when people are different. What's the wording? You know, if they're not live, they can let their hair down and they can say things they wouldn't otherwise say if they were live. But for the life of me, I can't understand why. Are you ashamed of who you really are? I mean, there's two perspectives always, right? There's my side and then there's your side. So however we look at that particular person, it's like, why wouldn't you want to be recorded? You know, and I mean, it's no different. So maybe they don't like the person that they are, and they only want the select few people in the room to see that. Or I don't know, maybe they think that they're going to do something with it, like what people do. You know, they make videos about people. Yeah, I had a hangout last night, and look what so and so said and did. I don't know. I mean,
well, I think, Roy, I think that you know, I would consider myself an open book, but at the same time, there are things. At the same time, there are things that I protect myself from regarding the public and everyone else except those I trust.
Oh, sure.
So I think that that may play a role.
Oh,
there.
Definitely. I definitely agree with that, Eve. Absolutely.
But there is also I think it's a different way of expressing himself. Me, for example, I mean, if we weren't on air, I will swear a lot more than I do, and yeah, but no. But the funny thing is that the era where we live, I mean, swearing is like breathing. It doesn't have that bad connotation, you know. While on air, I change. Even if you don't do it on a conscious level, you change the language. You know, you try to say things in a different way. So there is that aspect too. So, see.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, you are a little bit more guarded about your personal stuff. Definitely, you know, and depending upon where the conversation is and who the conversation's with. But I think as time progresses, in about 5 years, 10 years from now, these hangouts, at least for us who do this on a regular basis, I mean, this is all going to be second nature, and we're gonna just spew out a little bit more than we would have initially when we were a little bit more guarded, because we realized that these are unfounded thoughts that we had. It's not really going to go anywhere. You know, I have a friend, and she's very protective of her family and stuff, and rightly so. So she's always saying to me, you know, don't tell anybody this, don't tell anybody this. And it's not necessary, because, yeah, I'll hold your confidence. I mean, if something is said in confidence between two people, or even a group of 10 people that is done off air, hopefully, there's enough trust amongst that unit of people where, yeah, that confidence is going to be held in strictness, and rather than being all over the place. So choose your friends wisely, right?
Well, so from my perspective, I've actually had someone, when I was getting my master's degree, call my master's program because of YouTube, because they were a mentally ill person who thought that I was fixating and harassing them, even though I had blocked them on every single medium. And, you know, I'm at a point where I can't really afford for even the rumor of me doing something. Like, luckily I was able to sort of, you know, say, like, lie my way out of it and say, oh, I don't know who this person is, but I'll give them a call and hopefully I'll sort this out. But for me, you know, that's actually, like, amplified now. The pressure that I feel sometimes, like, why I don't reveal, you know, my, you know, like, for example, what city I live in. And there are people on here, like, Shadow knows where I live. But there's, you know,
but
definitely...
I'll deny it to my grave, though.
Yeah, I mean, until I feel, yeah, but it's only people, like, that I consider, like, friends and who I really trust, because, you know, I work in a lab with a guy who, you know, the guy who right now I'm doing my lab rotation with, like, he's a very famous scientist, and or at least I should say in scientific circles, he's a famous scientist, and, you know, it's, you know, if he, you know, if this somehow was to get, you know, to him, that completely, you know, if someone just makes something up, because we all know that lies are far more powerful than truths, that means that he won't be willing to fund me if I want to do my PhD under him. And I gotta say, for right now, from where my experience is, he's someone that I'd definitely like to consider. And I also, you know, I'm in a high-profile program, so I don't want to, you know, I'm on a short leash to begin with in terms of how difficult my program is. So it's one of those things where until people become reliable, I think that people are always going to have sort of that guardedness. And I don't necessarily know that it's a bad thing, but that's just sort of a reality.
What do you mean by lies are more powerful than truth?
It's easier to... Bill Bowerman once said that it... ask permission. And what I take from that to me, and just the general principle behind that is if you do something, it's much easier to do something than to rebut something that's already been done. And, you know, it's much easier to, and we all know, you know, it's much easier to accuse someone of doing something immoral, even if they haven't done anything immoral. And it's going to take way more effort for them to debunk that accusation than it is
exactly
for them to then for someone to accuse. Like, someone could accuse me of internet harassment, and I'd have to be like, well, I don't harass any of these people. This, you know, this is something I do as a hobby. Like, that takes way more effort, you know. And like, I don't do anything like that, and that's the frustrating thing about sort of the structure, and that's just human nature. That's not even the internet.
I think it's just kind of poorly worded, though, because I would find that the truth is more powerful than lying, but that lying is more easy, is what it seems like you're describing.
Yeah, I guess so. What I mean to say is, yeah, I was being probably imprecise. What I mean to say is that it's that when it comes to accusations, maybe a better word is that accusations are always more powerful than what the actual truth is.
I agree with that.
Yeah, and Goebbels too agrees with you, so, I mean, you're in good company, but...
I agree with that. Like, Benny's accusing me all kinds of stuff on the side chat right now, so it's and plus I want to quote him on it because it's fun. I think it's fun.
The people that are watching this stream on my end are too busy dealing with a troll. And it's a shame that they might have to go back and see that argument. I don't know.
Well, you know what? Go ahead.
Well, there were no gay crushes on me on your stream. I was very disappointed.
Darn. Well, quite some time ago, there was somebody saying that they had a thing for you and Fiona. Okay, they were talking about crushes, though.
I have a crush on Fabio.
There you go.
It's the voice, I know.
Yes, it is.
Except for me, I don't have with me, it's not the voice thing. It's the humor and the dogs.
Yeah, the dogs. Yeah, the dogs play a big part in it. I understand. Yeah. It's a good point, actually.
I have a couple internet crushes, but those will remain secret so that everyone will think they're a potential victim. Because just because I'm straight does not mean, you know, you don't know, I'm an immoral atheist heathen. You know, maybe I'm testing. You know, and Jerry Falwell said that I went to the most atheistic university in the country. At least I think Liberty University named it a few years ago.
So what you're saying is
aren't all universities atheistic by definition? You know,
yeah, with the young people,
if they're public,
and the togas and the John Belushi.
Yeah, and we just learned this evening that all the scientists have got an agenda. So you're fucked, basically.
Oh yeah. The presuppositions.
Yeah, it doesn't have to be like a very substantive agenda. Like, my agenda is just to find a good beer and like a nice girl that makes me convinced that I'm not a crazy person.
No. This is what you say, but you know you're part of the spectrum, like everybody else. So behave.
Exactly.
Sam's got low standards.
Honestly, you know, I'm influenced by the work that Carl Sagan did. You know, with like the importance of scientific literacy and just, you know, overall rational thought for society and stuff like that. Just enlightenment overall. Honestly, if I could honestly just find my place in the cosmos through scientific law, like just through understanding the law-like regularities that I'm put in, like I'd be fine.
Yeah, but see, I mean,
just give me that, give me that, and marijuana, and I'm good. Friends, marijuana, and good luck. That's good.
No, you're right. You don't
ironically, Carl Sagan was a huge pothead. Did you know that?
Yeah.
Where's the irony in that?
Wrong word. Sorry. Coincidence. My bad.
It's not even.
Benny and the Grammar Police.
It's just wrong.
Sorry. I just love you. I love that little back and forth you guys just had right now. Oh yeah. Did you know this basic fact? Yeah.
Oh, I wasn't paying attention. Did somebody say I was possessed? I missed it. Damn it.
Ben does this to me all the time. I do it to him, so it's all good.
No, I was just reading your little troll there.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, he was suggesting that a demon does deceive you.
Yes. I love that shit. I feel like I should put my hat on and go on camera.
That's part of the agenda. You can.
I'd have to take off the headset. That's the problem. I can't wear the hat with the headset on.
Well, Satan's running a huge conspiracy.
Oh, is he in league with the Illuminati now?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. He's the head of it.
Oh, well, that's fine.
Oh yeah.
I got my membership card. I'm good. I'm covered.
He's a light bearer.
He's totally running this secularization right now. Yeah, he's getting people skeptical of that of that organized religion, man.
See, Sam just doesn't know. He's being controlled because he's a
with that science and reason and shit.
Oh crap! No, don't use your reasoning. Ah. I'm not trolling for the third time. I'd like to correct.
So my question.
Wait. I don't get to say this nearly often enough. I'm sorry, but I really need to correct Jesus. It isn't the third time I've accused you of trolling. It's about the fifth or sixth at least. I just wanted to say that I had to correct Jesus. That was fun.
The question of the minute, and I don't want this to go too far, just the question of the minute. Can you know, just can you know if you're deceived?
No.
Yes. There's a no and a yes, I heard.
I think you can find out. I think you can find out you're deceived. But once you found out you're deceived, you're not really deceived anymore.
Yeah, it would be after the fact that you'd know. You'd say, I was deceived. But if you were currently deceived now, then you'd have to
deceived is past tense.
Deceived, yes. Hang on. Deceived is past tense. Yes.
You could currently be being deceived by someone. Is that what you meant, or what do you?
Okay. Listen to my question.
Or by yourself.
Listen to my question. Can you know if you are currently deceived?
Yes, you can know.
Quite possibly, if new information comes about to indicate that, in fact, you are deceived.
I know there's a lot that my ex has said to me, as well as her current husband, that they're lying. I know that I have been deceived, that I'm currently being deceived by them.
It's a past tense, but can you know in the current state that you're being deceived?
When they're lying to me, I actively know that they're lying to me, yes.
Well, like what Wolf said, the new information would have to be interjected so that you would know the deception, because you're probably going to... Your first...
Wait a minute. Just knowing someone's lying, it doesn't mean that you're deceived, though.
No, exactly. So first thoughts, let me put it this way. First thoughts are that you're accurate in your assessment of what is, whether through people or reading or whatever. And then my question is, can you know that you're deceived without, of course, somebody telling you you're deceived? So is there a way for you yourself to find this out without additional information is what I'm trying to ask.
I mean, absent of additional information, how would we know?
Well, see, that's just it. That's why I asked. So if you really understand the question, I personally believe the answer is no. You can never know if you're deceived. You have to have external information in order to know that.
Don't you need to have external information to know anything? I mean,
no, not necessarily. No.
Okay.
Well, hang on. I have a couple friends that are schizophrenic, and they can tell the difference between what they're, actually experiencing typically and what they're coming across that's a product of, the schizophrenia.
Roy, I just meant, you said external. I mean, other than direct knowledge of the self or something, anything you're going to want to learn about, you're going to need external information, right? So I'm just trying to figure out what you meant by you're going to need external information for this.
I think you can also reevaluate the current information you have, and if you put two and two together, you can figure it out.
Yes.
But then you wouldn't
can
be
deception
deceived.
be arrived from that, Eve? So do you say? I'm sorry.
No, I was just going to say that once you figure it out, you wouldn't be deceived anymore. You'd be.
See, that's my question. Can you yourself figure out if you're deceived?
I think in the process, you could be deceived, but you could still be questioning and doubting. So you're searching to see if you are.
Yes. So you can't know that you're deceived without external information, but you can at least tell yourself, I might be, but you don't know for sure. Is that what you're saying, Eve?
I think it would come down to if you had doubts if you were. Like if you had doubts about if you were deceived, then you would start looking into if you were.
Right, and then the additional information has to be external in order for you to be confirming that doubt.
No, not necessarily. You can review that. You can review. You can review your current information that you have.
Yeah, I mean, what's the point behind all this? Because this seems like idle speculation at best. I mean, sure, if something is coherent, if something is sound or unsound, it would really depend on say if someone lies to you. I mean, that's sort of intersubjective because that's coming from their subjective view. And obviously the person from the other subject probably wouldn't know until more information was gathered, verified through consensus.
If we're talking about something
through some empirical means, almost done. But my question, Roy, what's the point behind all this?
If a person doesn't know if they can understand if they are deceived or not by themselves, that will determine their continued thinking or unthinking or rethinking of stuff. Yes?
Well, that's why people need to keep in mind that they can be wrong. And I was going to say with Wolf, I think it's a very big deal because I was indoctrinated, and so I myself was deceived. And if it wasn't for my doubts, for me to push the questioning and search out those doubts, I wouldn't be in the position I am.
Yeah, but I mean that's the point. I mean, we already understand that there are certain cases where people can be deceived. I mean, of course, but the point is with this particular discussion, what is the point behind bringing up this almost kind of not extraordinary regularity?
Well, that's why I prefaced it with, this is the question of the minute. I only wanted to invest a minute into it because I realized that some people like yourself may see that, there's no value here. And I already took that into consideration. We can move on.
Yeah, I actually seen the value in it, Roy, but
I do too.
Everybody's different.
Exactly. I just wanted to compare.
No, I mean, I'm just saying. I'm just saying. I mean, we had the consensus that people there are cases where people can indeed be deceived. In light of new information. I mean, we all came to that consensus that that stuff does occur. Therefore, let's let's make a transition. I mean, let's build on that inquiry. I mean, if you can't tell. I fucking suck at snapping. But like I say, honestly, it's all about progression.
Yeah, there wasn't really an end point, Wolf, to any of this. I was just comparing notes with my peers to see if I'm the odd man out, or if there's anybody that agrees with my perception of Yeah. Can you know that you're deceived?
I think you can.
Without external.
Well, honestly, I honestly think you had the consensus for like pretty much the whole room in that certain cases that can happen.
Now, the thing is, there are certain cases, but there are also certain cases in which you can know that you're deceived without necessarily knowing in what way you've been deceived.
I think Shadow had a point with bringing up his, was it schizophrenic friends, Shadow? Yeah, because if they can recognize, like if they would have to figure it out at least once, though, either through medical evaluation or what have you. But if they can recognize that something is deceiving them that has before, I think that they, like from inductive reasoning, I think that they can determine that they're being deceived.
Yeah, and I mean, there's a lot of people in similar kind of situations, you know. But when you're dealing with psychoaffective disorders, one of the coping skills is to try and figure out what is and isn't real, so that you can tell when your senses are deceiving you.
I have an example of when this actually, like, practically you can examine this. I have one of my best friends. He recently started dating someone, and he was talking about how he felt with her, and he was felt about her, and they'd only been together like a couple weeks, and he was asking me what I thought of that, and I said, well, one thing to keep in mind is that it's pretty well known that in the beginning of a relationship, a male's testosterone is lowered while his oxytocin is raised, and the female's oxytocin is raised, but also their testosterone is raised, so that the sex drive between the two partners basically gets matched. So in essence, like, you're getting this almost false illusion that biochemically you're getting this honeymoon period, and he was able to be like, oh, that's why, you know, like, I'm jumping into these broad, and like, it was literally just seeing me announcing these facts to him, I saw his face change, and he was like, that makes a lot of sense. Like, I'll just make sure to keep that in mind with, you know, how I feel about her. It doesn't change how he feels about her. It doesn't change that they have a great relationship right now. But what it does allow is to know that he is capable, you know, that his brain is capable of being deceived, you know, by hormones.
Yeah, that's a good example as well. Because, I mean, that little honeymoon phase always comes to an end.
You got to just keep in mind in the back of your head that really deep down, everyone's no good. They can try to hide it for a while, but eventually you'll figure it out. But you can just keep in mind from the start that they're no good, they're no good, they're no good. Baby, you're no good, right? Isn't that how it goes?
Yeah, something like that.
So, yeah. That's my advice. Benny Ocean on romance, ladies and gentlemen. It's the least romantic thing you'll ever hear, but
Probably so.
No, I mean, really, I remember when I was a kid, like, there was this girl I had this crazy crush on. She actually went to my youth church, and her name was Ashley, and she was this little blonde cutie pie. And so, like, I'm a teenager, raging hormones, limited, how would you say, my prefrontal cortex might not have been done developing. So I'm like, 17 years old or whatever, and I'm just like crazy about this girl, right? And I'm just thinking of her like she's this impossibly perfect little angel, And it's funny how men, I think especially young men, put women on this crazy pedestal, like they're, goddesses. And older guys tend not to after they've been through a couple divorces and been screwed over by a woman or two. But before they've had that experience, man, we really we self-deceive hard, really hard.
Don't you kind of miss being that naive in some sense?
Oh, it felt great. I mean, yeah, that kind of blind love and affection feels great, really does.
And then reality hits.
Yeah. But seeing people as actual human beings that are complex, that have strengths and weaknesses, and who aren't perfect, is ultimately real life. It's so it's more meaningful, I think, in the long run. But yeah, as far as just like a burst of oxytocin or what the hell, whatever, I don't even know the whole chemical cocktail going on in your brain when you're falling in love with somebody. But It sure does feel good.
Well, can you really say that that's falling in love, or is that just like fatal attraction?
Well,
I mean, it is, right? Like,
yeah, we just talked the other day on Eve's channel actually that the word love is maybe too flexible, but yeah, I mean, you're right. Love might not be the right word.
Well, I mean, it's you know, we can be. I think like our society puts, you know, a special premium on what we call love, when, you know, in reality, I mean, we're just describing another sensation. Romanticize. I don't mean to you know, no pun intended, but we romanticize what, you know, sort of what is ostensibly just, you know, a variation of an emotion. You know, it's no different, you know, being sad, you know, being happy, being drunk, being, you know, you name the sensation. It's all variations on a theme. The fact that all of them, you know, at least in my opinion, and I think according to the neuroscientific evidence, are due to chemicals, just because that's the case doesn't rob the experience of what's happening. So I think that oftentimes you have to keep that in mind, is that what you're going through is a response to whatever, you know, your environment is, and you just have to be cognizant and either try to embrace that response, whether it's, you know, being around friends and being happy, or you know, you have to be like, well, why is this pissing me off? Why am I having this reaction? Does this reaction make sense?
I think the experience that...
Go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah, just real quick. I think the experience that Benny was talking about, we all have, right? It's the default experience when we're all kind of sort of naive, and love is in the air and lust is in the air, and we don't know which is which and what are we doing, and so we have this preconceived idea of what our girlfriend or boyfriend is supposed to be, and so we go in search of, and then when the synergy, the chemistry, and everything else is right there, it's like, man, you know, like these cartoons, your heart is pounding out of your chest, and it's like, I got to have that gal or I got to have that boy. And when you do get together, you know, there is that attraction from both parties. Now they're both trying to, mold the other one into their image of what the boyfriend-girlfriend should be, you know, and then some of us continue it on into marriage. So that's my kind of sort of take. We need to realize that they're their own people. Don't you know, mold them into your image of what they should be. In other words, when you hear, well, if you were really my boyfriend, you would blank, you know, or you wouldn't have blanked.
That's just immaturity right there. You can find that. You can find even people here on Google Plus doing that. Well, if you don't like who I dislike, then, you know, you're not really a friend of mine. Well, sorry, I'm out of high school. I'm not in high school anymore.
Exactly.
Get over that shit.
Exactly. It's needy. It's needy. These types of people are, you know, I call them needy people. They need to be needed, but they don't realize what a leech they are to the other person.
Well, it's kind of a manipulation tactic.
Well, it is, but sometimes they don't even know that they're doing that. They're oblivious to it. That's part of the deception.
One thing I could have asked you, Eve, in the last hangout, or just asked the room, is do you think that being in love, like head over heels, kind of bonkers in love, is it a good thing?
It is.
It feels damn good.
Yeah, I know, it does feel good, but I mean, if there's some irrational element to it, where really what's happening is you're overlooking, psychologically, you're sort of programmed in a certain way to mate, right? So you fall in love because it fulfills a need. It's good probably for child rearing. So it's an irrational kind of a process. It's not like you reason, you know, to this conclusion about somebody. In some ways, you see them in a way that nobody else does. You're seeing them in a better light than anybody else. You know, I mean, any of their exes would be able to tell you all of their faults. You know? But you're not seeing them, you know, in the correct light. If you were one of their parents or their siblings, you'd know the dirt they've done, right? You'd know that they're not as perfect as you're making them seem in your head. So
but I still think it's a good thing.
I think that I think it's a good thing to remain cautious and be aware of that fact.
Yeah. True.
But
I still think it's a good thing. Not build up so many walls that you can't at least give the person a chance. I mean, none of us are perfect, so of course, you know, there's going to be, well, none of us are, I don't want to use that word, but you know what I mean.
Love is a very powerful chemical that's released in our brain and causes all sorts of things. And if you wouldn't drive a car under the influence of drugs, for example. So,
you did not.
So it's very healthy to be cautious when you realise that you might be falling in love. If you're self-aware, it's a good idea just to be cautious, because you do some strange things when you're in love, a bit like when you've smoked pot.
So, funny story time as always. I've had a few beers, so be
cautious then, my man.
Be cautious. With a girl recently, and not, I guess, 6 months ago, 7 months ago. But basically, the story goes, we unfortunately, I was moving, going to where my PhD program's located, and I was still very much in love with her. And to deal with that, I dealt with it the way that I seemed like a good idea at the time, which was
amounts of alcohol.
Yes. Oh God. It was whiskey night for me, and I woke up with my clothes completely on, the light in my room on, and me spooning with my golden retriever. So, I will say,
you're in love with your golden retriever.
That's unconditional love, my man. Unconditional love.
What a
at that moment that I did love that dog. It took away from the loneliness for a second with a bit of the what the fuck is wrong with me?
You definitely loved that dog that night, right?
This is why he went out of his way to say that his clothes were on.
Yeah, my clothes were on.
Jeez. And you can't hardly blame him. I mean, if you had to rate dogs, golden retrievers is a pretty sexy animal,
Beautiful blonde.
I'm scared that you think that way, Benny, but keep going.
Remind me to never let you near my dog.
I knew the picture from a little south when I'm drunk was mentioned. So anyway, continue.
That's what happens. You end up spooning a golden retriever, and then looking at yourself in the mirror in the morning, going, "Well, not really a substitute for Lydia, but at least it's fluffy."
I think a lot of people cuddle with their dogs, probably not, drunk at night.
I do. I actually just gave her a bath.
But you didn't cuddle in the bath with her, did you?
Yes, I did. I threw on my swimsuit and no.
Pictures or it didn't happen.
I've never understood how you take your dog out for a walk, you see it interact with other dogs by licking. You see it licking each other's backsides and so on, and then the dog comes in and you have it on the bed and then you let it lick your face. That I've never understood.
I've seen people allowing their dogs to tongue them.
Yeah.
On the plus side, dogs' mouths and cats' mouths are actually pretty clean because their body temperatures are higher. So
that's still really gross. Yeah, I hear that all the time, but it's still really, really, really gross.
Wait a minute. So you're saying their mouths are hotter or colder?
Oh no, I wish I hadn't started.
Is that a pun? I'm not going to step into that pun.
Well, Kevin, you said the dog's mouth is hotter? Is that what you said?
Cats and dogs both have a higher body temperature, so they.
So it's not like human temperature poo in their mouth. It's like hot poo.
Yeah. No, the point is that they kill germs more effectively.
No, the point is hot poo.
So they did a study. You guys know the water cups in front of at each of the entrances of the churches?
Oh my, I know where this is going.
Yeah, I think it's like something like 70%, and they found harmful bacteria and fecal matter in them.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. William Lane Craig said that fountain was pure of nothing but God water and nothing else.
Yeah. God water.
God water.
Yeah. Okay. Hang on 1 second. Sorry. For those watching my stream, I'm going offline. There should be a link if you refresh to Xboxes. I also put in the watch link. And to everybody on my channel, good night. This will be continued over on Xboxes, please.